Good evening or good morning, good people. It's a little after midnight where I'm at. I'm on Central Standard Time in the US of A. And it's the weekend. It's Saturday night. Well, it's Friday night, Saturday morning. And I'm just kind of getting a look at some of this here news. Just covering some of this news that I'm kind of catching up on. And I did a video yesterday, so I'm going to do one today. Just kind of catch up on some stuff. So let me see. Where we going to start at? What we got here? There's a lot going on, so let's see. We're gonna let's see. There's a lot of stories too. How y'all doing? I hope y'all out there being good. Out here not getting in no trouble, because it's a lot of trouble to get into. I tell you that, a lot. And it's best to stay inside. Just be on TikTok, messing around with you. You can get in trouble on TikTok though, for real. You can get on. There'll be a lot of stuff. People got a lot of stuff going on. You be scrolling through the lives and you see folk saying all kind of foolishness and tarot readings and psychics and all kind of stuff. You can get in a lot of foolishness even on your laptop or on your computer or on your phone online, just online scrolling through some stuff. You mess around and stumble into a lot of foolishness. So just be safe, be careful, y'all. Just use your wisdom and discernment. If something don't sound right, don't feel right, then don't indulge in it. And that's a good thing about being on these computers. You can just, with the click of a button or a swipe of a finger, you just, get it on out of there. So anyway, let's in the news. There's been some talks about Trump possibly pardoning the police officers who murdered George Floyd. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh wow. They are throwing it out there that he might possibly, or he may be considering, or he may have been asked to pardon the police officers who took part in the murder of George Floyd. It's Derek Chauvin in particular. He's the main one. I think they gave him, 28 years? He's serving 28 years in federal prison. But even if Trump pardons him on the federal level, he's still got state time to do so. We'll see how that works out. Uh, and I guess they're saying that the incentive or the advantage to Trump pardoning this cop or these cops is that it would be to get back on the good side of law enforcement, who, for the most part, a lot of police, law enforcement, military back Trump. They're big Trump supporters. But when he pardoned those insurrectionists, that pissed a lot of law enforcement and police officials off when he did that, especially the Capitol Police officials and the Capitol Police Chief and the DC Police Chief. He pardoned some cops too. We'll get into that. But they're saying that there's been stories that saying that Trump might pardon the cops in was it Milwaukee? Was it Wisconsin or was it Minnesota where the George Floyd murder took place? I think it was Minnesota. Was it Milwaukee? Milwaukee or Minnesota? They're thinking about pardon. He's thinking about they put that out there in the media. I guess it's a rumor saying that he might consider issuing pardons or commuting Derek Chauvin's sentence just to pacify law enforcement because they're pissed off about him pardoning those insurrectionists. And he pardoned a couple of other police officers in some killings of civilians. So we'll see how that goes. But even if, like I said, even if Trump pardoned Chauvin, he still got state time. I think he got convicted of some state cases or state charges too. I believe he did, but don't where's my other keyboard? Don't hold me to it. I'm gonna double check to see. I think he was convicted in state court too. But anyway, if he does, it's not even happening yet, and they didn't say that he did or not, but I'm hoping that if he does do something evil enough to pardon these cops that killed George Floyd, hopefully the state charges pick up, and that Derek Chauvin, if he does pardon him, that he'll have to still do state time. So, Derek Chauvin convicted state charges. Because if it's just if he just got convicted on federal charges and Trump pardons him, then he'll get out. See, Derek Chauvin convicted on state charges. Yeah, if it's just says Hennepin County Judge Peter Cahill sentenced Chauvin to 22.5 years after jurors found him guilty of second-degree murder, third-degree second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Let me make sure. It says District Court of Minnesota in 2021. Yeah, that's state court, state of Minnesota versus Derek Michael Chauvin. Yeah, so those state charges. Trump can't pardon state charges. So he got to sit down. And they said he's been poked up. He's been stabbed, but he was stabbed. It was the first conviction of a white police officer in Minnesota for the murder of a black person. He was stabbed, though, I think in prison 20-something times, I believe. So they had to move him. Yeah, he was stabbed. Let me go. I'm on his Wikipedia page. Here's the verdict, the sentencing. Protesting demonstrations. I'm going to see the post-conviction. Go all the way down to the bottom. He tried to appeal. He appealed his conviction. And they denied it in 2020. He appealed his conviction in 2022. They denied it in 2023. Rejected by a 3-judge panel. But yeah, he got stabbed. Chauvin got stabbed in prison. And they ended up having to move him. So Chauvin had his knee on, he had his knee on George Floyd for 9 minutes. Where's that story of him being stabbed in prison? I remember when they said that the guy that murdered Martin Luther King, James Earl Ray, I remember they said that somebody tried to kill him. He got stabbed in prison. Derek Chauvin stabbed. Yeah, they said they stabbed him 22 times in prison. For every year that he got to serve in prison, somebody stabbed him 22 times. How he survived that? How he survived being stabbed 22 times? It's an inmate charged with stabbing Derek Chauvin, 22 times. And they're taking him to trial, and it's set for this year, 2025, the guy that stabbed Chauvin. The trial for the man who is accused of stabbing Derek Chauvin has been set for February in Arizona. The man charged, name is John Turskak, was granted a continuance from the court for the trial and the plea deadline being pushed to February, so that's next month. He's charged with attempted murder, stabbed him with an improvised knife, stabbed him with a shank pretty much. They granted him a continuance. His trial date is set for February 18th, and he has until February 2nd to make a plea. Are they trying to get him to plead out? So they making him. Yeah, he's in a federal correctional institution in Tucson, Arizona. But it said that he was convicted. I guess that Chauvin was also convicted on civil rights charges too. He's convicted on federal charges. But anyway, yeah, somebody stabbed him. This man stabbed him. Chauvin was transferred to a federal prison in Texas about 9 months after the stabbing. He is now housed in the Federal Correctional Institution in Big Springs, Texas, which is got him housed in a low-security prison in Texas. A low-security federal prison is not nearly as rough or brutal as a state high-security or maximum security federal correctional facility where he belongs. So, so he's serving a 21-year sentence in federal prison for violating George Floyd's civil rights. The time is being served concurrently with Chauvin's murder conviction in state court. See what they did? Just kind of like how they did those white supremacists that murdered Aubrey, the jogger down in Georgia. They gave them federal and state sentences. So the way that they help them don't land, they do their best to try to help these killers land as softly as possible. So they arrange for them to do their time, to serve out most of their sentences in a federal prison, because federal prison is way more easier to serve than state. Because Chauvin is a hardcore killer convicted of murder by the state of Minnesota. But they got him serving time in the federal correctional facility when he should be in a state maximum security prison. But anyway, he thought he escaped by getting put in that comfy federal low security camp or prison. But he ended up getting poked up and stabbed anyway in federal prison 22 times. So sometimes, hey, you can't escape God's justice. You cannot escape God's justice. So Trump can try to pardon him all he wants. He still got them state charges that he got to deal with if he does pardon him. So I don't see the point of Trump even pardoning this guy. But they're saying they threw that out there, saying just to appease law enforcement that they might go ahead and that Trump might consider pardoning him. I want to know what happened to that guy, the cop that killed Sonia Massey. What they doing with him, because they was trying to let him out on bail. I think it was this month too. He's trying to get out. Let's see what happened with him. He has his date rescheduled. That was 3 weeks ago. They were trying to let him out on bond. Okay, it says Sonia Massey, Justice Department reaches agreement with Illinois Sheriff's Office and dispatch to resolve race discrimination investigation. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for if they let him out. Grayson, that's what his name is. Sean Grayson, the one that killed Sonia Massey. S-E-A-N. Sean Grayson. And y'all know they said that this demon is suffering with cancer too. So that's why he's trying to get out, because he has like colon cancer or something. And so it says this was posted, this was published 6 days ago on MSN, and it says he's still waiting a Supreme Court decision from the Illinois Supreme Court, because he's trying his best to get out pending his trial. Let's see what it say. And I told y'all what his defense is going to be. He's going to use the defense that when Sonia Massey said, Lord rebuke you, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, he's going to try to say when she said that, he thought she was going to throw that water on him when she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. That's going to be his defense. Now, I thought she was going to throw the water on me when she said it twice, that she rebuked him in the name of Jesus. Well, we in the black community and anybody in the religious community, we all know what she meant when she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. That's the way of saying, I would never do something like that, or that's not going to happen. She was rebuking his words of saying, or his fear that she was going to throw that hot boiling pot of water on him. And she said, oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. She said it again. He said, what'd you say? And Miss Massey said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. She wasn't going to throw that water on him, and he knows that. He knows that. She didn't even threaten to throw the pot on him. So that's going to be his defense, though, y'all. And if he has an all-white jury, it might fly. Don't be surprised if they don't. If they convict him, it's going to be on a lesser charge, or maybe involuntary manslaughter or something like that. I don't put it past this justice system or these people at this point. But that's going to be his primary defense, is that he felt threatened that she was going to throw that boiling water on him when she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. So expect that to be his defense when he goes to trial. But right now, he's waiting on a Supreme Court decision to try to get out on bond pending his trial, because he's supposedly suffering with colon cancer. So they said he appeared in court on Tuesday for a routine hearing. His attorney told the court they are waiting on the Supreme Court to decide whether the former Sangamon County deputy accused of murder should be released under the state's SAFET Act. S-A-F-E-T Act. I don't put nothing past these people. They mess around and let him out on bond. I don't put nothing past him. So I just wanted to know what was I was following up on that because I had read a few weeks ago that he was trying to get out on bond. But we'll see. What else? Yeah, but that's what it is. You know, we talked about that in the last video, that Trump issued 1,500 pardons for those January 6th insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol building in D.C. In protest of Trump losing the 2020 election to Biden, and it resulted in the deaths of several police officers. And you know, it was some civilians too. So it says the people who died as a result of the January 6th insurrection includes the direct fatalities at the insurrection was Ashley Babbitt. She was a Trump supporter. She was a MAGA violent protester who tried to bust into a door. She did bust through the door, and she was shot by Capitol Police, and she died. Then there's Brian Sicknick. He was a Capitol Police officer who suffered strokes after being assaulted. I think they even said they hit him with a fire extinguisher or something. Multiple people assaulted this officer, and he ended up dying from a stroke after being assaulted, but nobody got charged with that officer's murder. There was medical emergencies during the riot. Somebody named Kevin Greeson died of a heart attack. Benjamin Phillips, he died of a stroke. Roseanne Boylan died of a drug overdose during the riots. And then after the riots, post-riot suicides of law enforcement officers who were there and experienced that insurrection. I guess their minds couldn't take it. And police officers are supposed to be, strong psychologically, because they see so many different things throughout the course of their career, some of the worst of humanity. And this riot, this insurrection drove these officers to suicide. It was Jeffrey Smith with the MPD. What was it, Military Police Department? MPD? Howard Liebengood of the Capitol Police Department, Gunther Hashida, and Kyle DeFreytag all committed suicide after experiencing this insurrection, being involved in this insurrection. 4 police officers. That's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 deaths that resulted as a result of that insurrection. 9 people died from this, and he just pardoned all of them. 1,500 pardons and sentence commutations. So law enforcement is pissed off at Trump for that. And I put some videos up on my YouTube channel. I can't really post the videos up on this TikTok because I'll get flagged or something because they'll say it's hate speech or something if the videos are really harsh. Because I put it on the YouTube with the video. I put this video up and then post the videos from these stories at the end of my YouTube. So if you want to, you can go and view them on my YouTube channel if you want to see the news stories related to these things. But I don't think I put the Capitol insurrection up. I just wanted to explain this because of the pardons that Trump issued recently and why, some of the police are pissed about this and why they're saying that he might try to pardon these George Floyd cops to pacify the police who are pretty heated at Trump right about now for pardoning these insurrectionists who, are responsible for the deaths of these 9 people at the end of the day. Trump is also directly responsible for the deaths of these 9 people because he incited this insurrection. None of that would have happened had Trump not incited all of this. And they said he hesitated or did not, or he failed to send the National Guard, which is why he was being charged with inciting the insurrection by Jack Smith. But after he won the election, all that went out the window, and Jack Smith ended up resigning because Trump won the election in November. So Jack Smith closed the case out. He released the files, though. He released the details and the findings of his investigation before he resigned and dismissed the case. But that's the only reason why Trump is not being charged and brought to trial for that insurrection is because he won the election. But anyway, he issued those pardons for those people. But it's 9 people dead because of this insurrection. And so also, again, Trump did, however, pardon 2 D.C. police officers convicted in the death of 20-year-old Karon Hilton Brown, who was riding a moped. I'm going to read this to y'all. He was riding a moped on a sidewalk without a helmet when he ignored instructions to stop. So they were stopping him because he was riding a moped on the sidewalk without a helmet. Just messing with somebody. Just messing with him. Those instructions came from police officers Terrence D. Sutton, who then chased Hilton Brown in a car for more than 10 blocks, including down an alley with emergency lights and sirens on, according to federal prosecutors. So they gave chase to this boy, 20-year-old boy on a moped. They stopped him because they said he didn't have a helmet on. They chased him, gave chase to him in an alley. Hilton Brown was struck by another car as he emerged from the alley, and as he laid unconscious, so he got hit, and he got hit off the moped, or the moped, and he got struck by another car. And as he emerged from the alley and he lay unconscious, Sutton and fellow officer Andrew Zabowski agreed to cover up Sutton's actions. Sutton is the one who gave chase to him. And I guess Zabowski was his partner. And the prosecutor said they tried to cover up Sutton's actions. The pair allowed the driver of the other car to leave within 20 minutes, turning off their body cameras, conferred, and then left without contacting the Metropolitan Police Department's Major Crash and Internal Affairs Unit to start an investigation, according to the Justice Department. Sutton was convicted by a federal jury in December of 2022 of second-degree murder, conspiracy to obstruct, and obstruction of justice. A judge sentenced him to 5.5 years. The same jury found Zabowski guilty of conspiracy to obstruct and obstructing justice. He received a 4-year prison sentence. The police union, as well as lawyers for the officers, had sought clemency from the Trump administration, according to CNN. Neither Sutton nor Zabowski were behind bars at the time of Trump's pardon on Wednesday, so they were out on appeal. They were out on bond on appeal. They both remained free while they appealed their cases, and Trump just went on ahead and issued them pardons. So they chased they were just basically messing with this young boy, 20 years old, riding on a moped without a helmet. So they chased this young boy down, just pretty much messing with him. And he started to run from them. And he got chased. They chased him down an alley. Another car hit him and knocked him out, knocked him unconscious. And I guess they didn't render no type of aid, because I think there's probably a policy that you don't give chase to somebody. In that situation, they shouldn't have gave chase to him. So since he chased him down more than 10 blocks, including down an alley with emergency lights and sirens turned off, and also his body camera was turned off, and the boy was struck by another car and was knocked out. and they covered this up. They should have never gave chase to him. That's probably what it was. They should have never, ever chased that boy in the first place. When they saw that he didn't stop and he was going to run for safety reasons, usually police safety procedures and protocols and policies say do not give chase because it could present, a really hazardous safety or a risky situation where you're chasing a person. Even in a car, if I know here in Kansas City, if a driver speeds off from police during a traffic stop, the police are not supposed to give chase to that driver within city limits, around throughout the city. They have a policy here that you don't chase that driver because it just presents too much of a safety hazard for, everybody around. All other drivers and all other people around is just too much of a safety hazard and a risk of life. So they're not supposed to chase people, especially in a stupid situation where this boy is on a darn moped without a helmet. They weren't supposed to chase him. So he went on ahead and gave these two cops pardons, but they only got 5 and 4 year sentences anyway. But they tried to cover it up because they didn't have their body camera on. They let you know they was up to something nefarious, because why didn't they not have their they didn't have their emergency lights and sirens on, and they didn't have their body cameras on, so they probably was gonna beat that boy anyway. They was up to no good. So he gave them pardons, but yeah, they were trying to appeal their convictions. So he did that to appease the police officials who were mad at him for pardoning the insurrectionists. He also pardoned some other cops, but I'm not gonna get into it because I'll be on this all night. He pardoned some other cops that killed another young black man. Um, yeah. So anyway, they also said Biden, before he left office, he pardoned Leonard Peltier. Now, Leonard Peltier is like a political prisoner. He's been locked up probably about 40 years. I think he was in Leavenworth, Kansas. I think Peltier is probably about 80 years old. And they said Biden pardoned him on his way out. Now, Peltier, he killed 2 FBI agents. He was like an activist. He was a Native American. He is a Native American activist. And he was pretty much a target because he's a Native American activist. So Leonard Peltier he's 80 years old. And he was a member of the American Indian Movement. And he was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and the deaths of 2 FBI agents on June 26, 1975. That was 49 years ago. Almost 50 years ago. It'll be 50 years come June 26 that this crime happened on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and he was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison. And Biden commuted his sentence on January 19th to indefinite house arrest. He's going to be on house arrest for the rest of his life because he's 80. He's 80 years old. He's an old man. The grant of clemency made the change in detention effective February 18th, 2025. So they're going to let him out on February 18th. He is scheduled to be transferred on that date to house arrest. I wonder where he's going to do his house arrest at. He was born in South Dakota. He wrote his memoir from prison. He's pretty much Leonard Peltier is basically a political prisoner. He admitted to participating in the shootout, but said he did not kill the FBI agents. However, witnesses say he confessed, and somebody testified against him. Political figures such as, human rights watchdogs such as Amnesty International, political figures Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, and the 14th Dalai Lama have campaigned for clemency for Peltier. At the time of the shootout, Peltier was an active member of the American Indian Movement, an indigenous rights advocacy group that worked to combat racism and police brutality experienced by Native Americans. So he was a target. It's kind of like COINTELPRO and how they did the Panthers. They targeted the American Indian Movement, and Peltier was basically an activist. He ran for president of the United States in 2004 from prison, winning the nomination of the Peace and Freedom Party. He received 27,607 votes. He ran for vice president of the United States on the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Okay. But yeah, Biden gave him a pardon. The man is 80 years old. So he worked as a welder. He's born in South Dakota or North Dakota, and he relocated to Seattle, Washington in 1965. So he's around about 19 years old. Worked as a welder, construction worker, and co-owner of an auto shop in his 20s. The co-owners used the upper level of the building as a stopping place or halfway house for American Indians who had alcohol addiction issues or had recently finished their prison sentences and were re-entering society. The halfway house took a financial toll on the shop, so they closed it. Peltier became involved in causes championing Native American civil rights. So he was a target. They were targeting him. Um, hmm, said that he learned that factional tensions at the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota between supporters of Richard Wilson, an elected tribal chairman in 1972, and traditionalist members of the Lakota tribe. So there was some type of internal fighting amongst the tribes on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Peltier became an official member of the American Indian movement in '72. Okay, and they just basically fought for Indian civil rights because the police, they were suffering, racism and stuff like, black people do. African Americans and Native Americans are the most marginalized, discriminated against, and brutalized racial minorities in America, period. So, what's that? Wilson created a private militia known as the Guardians of the Oglala Nation. Yeah. So, Peltier, having spent most of his occupation in a Milwaukee, Wisconsin jail, charged with attempted murder related to a different protest. When Peltier secured bail at the end of April, he took part in an American Indian Movement protest outside of the federal building in Milwaukee and was on his way to Wounded Knee with the group to deliver supplies when the incident ended. So, okay, I'm trying to see what happened with the shootout at Pine Ridge. At the time, he was a fugitive in 1975 with an arrest warrant having been issued in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It charged him with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution for the attempted murder of an off-duty Milwaukee police officer. He was acquitted of that charge in February of 1978. During this period, Peltier had 7 children from 2 marriages and 2 adopted children. It says on June 26, 1975, FBI agents Ronald Arthur Williams and James Ross Kohler returned to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation to continue searching for a young man named Jimmy Eagle, wanting to question him in connection with recent assault of 2 local ranch hands and theft of a pair of cowboy boots. So they just messing with them. Sometime after 11 a.m., Williams and Kohler, driving 2 separate unmarked cars, spotted, reported, and followed what was said to have been a red pickup truck or van, but was in fact a white over orange Chevy Suburban carryall carrying Peltier, Norman Charles, and Joe Stuntz. Peltier had a federal warrant for the attempted murder of the cop, although the FBI agents were not aware of this. And so they're saying that they stopped them. They stopped them, and then that's when a firefight ensued. So between 11:45 and 11:50, one of the agents, Williams, radioed to local dispatch that he and Kohler had come under fire from the vehicle's occupants and would be killed if reinforcements did not arrive. He next radioed that they had been shot. FBI Special Agent Gary Adams was the first to respond to Williams' call for assistance 12 miles away, but he and other responding BIA officers came under gunfire. So they had a shootout with the Native Americans, with Peltier's group. They were unable to reach Kohler and Williams in time, and both agents died within the first 10 minutes of gunfire. It was not until 4:25 p.m. that day that authorities were able to recover the bodies of Williams and Kohler from Kohler's vehicle. So they recovered rifles from Peltier, and now they said Peltier had an AR-15 rifle. So they exchanged gunfire with these FBI agents who came on the reservation looking for somebody else, but they weren't looking for Peltier, although Peltier had a federal warrant for attempted murder of a Milwaukee police officer. They weren't looking for him, but they still, when they came, and I guess they somehow stopped them, and a gunfight ensued, and so these 2 FBI agents ended up getting killed. So that's how Leonard Peltier got charged. The FBI reported that Williams, which is one of the agents, received a defensive wound to his right hand as he attempted to shield his face from a bullet that passed through his hand into his head. Williams was shot in the body and foot before the lethal shot contacted his head. Kohler, incapacitated from earlier bullet wounds, was shot twice in the head. So yeah, Peltier got 2 life sentences, and so 80 years old, Biden gave him a pardon, or he commuted his sentence, and so he commuted his sentence to lifetime house arrest, I guess. They've been trying to get Leonard Peltier out of jail all my life. He's been in jail for about 50 years. So I wonder what type of health is he in. Did Biden give him a compassionate release because of his age? On February 6, 2023, he made a plea for clemency. So he's like 79 then. Mm-mm. On January 19th, 2025, the last full day of his presidency, Joe Biden commuted Peltier's sentence to home confinement beginning on February 18, 2025. His son said that the Turtle Mountain Band was a home arranged for him on the reservation in Belcourt, North Dakota. But his sister Betty Ann hopes he'll stay with her instead. So he's going to stay, be sentenced to house arrest on a reservation. He's going to be staying with either his son or his sister for the rest of his life. He's probably in poor health, and Biden just went on ahead and just released him. But yeah, Biden did that on his last day. He released Leonard Peltier. Biden, I think they said Biden issued like over 2,500 pardons on his last day. I know it said it was in the thousands, that they said he either commuted people's sentence, gave them clemency, or pardons in the thousands on his last day. But anyway, yeah. So Trump, we'll see what Trump does. If he's going to pardon anybody else, we don't know. But Trump, he's so unpredictable in his behavior sometimes. But even if he does pardon Derek Chauvin, Chauvin's got that murder conviction with the state of Minnesota that he still got to. Matter of fact, it'd be worse for him because he won't do his time then in no cushy, low security federal prison. He's going to go to state prison, maximum security, and do his time if Trump does pardon him. So I don't think that's going to happen. Here's another story, y'all. Angry. This was out of Louisville, Kentucky. Angry over the temperature of his fries, a Kentucky man confronted and shot a Wendy's employee, who then pulled out a gun and fired back, police said. So this guy, he's mad because his fries is cold, and he pulls out his gun on a Wendy's employee who was also strapped, and pulled out their gun and fired back. Monier D. James Wooten, 25, faces charges of assault in an incident that happened on January 6th. That happened this month. Louisville Metro Police announced in a press release. The violence started after an argument in the drive-thru between the suspect and the group he was with, and the employee at a Louisville Wendy's at 10:41 p.m. that night. This is when it happened. The suspect and two unidentified co-defendants fired multiple shots at the victim. They was either drunk or high or just showing out, acting stupid over some cold French fries. It all allegedly started from an argument in the drive-thru over cold fries. The suspect and his group then went into the fast food restaurant. Inside, the suspects pulled a firearm and fired a shot, according to the criminal citation. The employee returned fire. The defendant then fired multiple rounds, one which struck the victim in the buttocks, according to the complaints. So he shot somebody in the behind. The alleged shooter and his group fled before police arrived, but the incident was captured on video surveillance, of course. The victim was hospitalized for treatment of her injuries. So it was a young girl who was working Wendy's, and she had her gun on her. These knuckleheads came in there acting crazy over some cold French fries, shot her in the butt, and then they fled the scene. But because it was all on camera, the police were able to track them down and arrested him. The suspect was quickly identified. The following day, police said one of the co-defendants contacted police and reported she had been shot. Oh, wait a minute. Police said one of the co-defendants contacted police and reported she had been shot. In an interview, she admitted to investigators that she was with the suspect at the Wendy's when he shot her. What? The document said. James Wooten surrendered on Friday, police said. He is being held, and his bond was set at $50,000. So how is the person with him got shot in the behind? That don't make sense. Let me look at this. Monier, his name was Monja. Monier. How do you spell his name? This just don't seem. How did the person that was with him end up getting shot in the behind? That doesn't make sense. James Wooten. He's 25. Monja, Monjah, Monjah, Monjah is how you spell his name. Jahmonjah. And they only got his bond set at $50,000. So luckily nobody lost their life over some doggone French fries. See, y'all, little stupid stuff like this, little dumb stuff like this can cause people to lose their lives. Now this clown that messed up his life going into a Wendy's shooting over some doing French fries, some cold French fries. It says, as a victim, a woman in her 20s left the building. James Wooten reportedly shot her. She was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. He shot her in the butt, so I guess he wasn't trying to kill her. So he turned himself in and is charged with 2 counts of assault. So I guess he was just trying to be funny and shot her in the butt. And then I guess he had a $50,000 bond. That's so stupid. That's just so dumb. That could have been ended up a lot worse because both of them were strapped with guns. But that person, the Wendy's employee, probably lost their job because they had a gun at work. This happened on January 6th, too, on the day of the insurrection, huh? Same day. I guess it's just something about January 6th. People start acting up. Zip during. Let's see. Over cold fries. And he shot at the employee. He shot at the employee. The employee returned fire, which is when he fired multiple rounds, hitting the woman. She was taken to the hospital. So this was the employee? Another woman who said she was with James Wooten at the time of the shooting reached out to the police, said she was shot as well. Oh, okay. So the girl, the employee, must have shot the person that was with him. But the girl, the employee, probably didn't get charged because they came in there with their guns. So the Wendy's employee returned fire and ended up shooting one of the girls that was with this clown. So play stupid games, win stupid prizes, pretty much. And she probably got shot and probably gonna get charged for being there with him and going in there with him because she should have never went in there. They all was on some confrontation type stuff because had that not been the case, why did they get out of the car and go into the restaurant? So she probably got shot and she probably gonna catch a case too for just going in there with him. Rightfully so, being stupid. Okay, so moving along. I posted the story up there, the news story on my YouTube page, so y'all can go and watch it if you want. Here's a terrible case here in Kansas City, was near Kansas City, it's in Johnson County, Missouri, in a little small hick town called Chilhowie, Missouri. And this involves, it says, Johnson County prosecutors charged a man and woman with alleged child sex crimes in which the victims were under 14 years old. Now, this happened back in September, but their charges have been upgraded to murder. So let me go ahead and read it. It says Gregory Dean Arnold, 56, of Chilhowie, Missouri, and is accused of 2 counts of first-degree statutory sodomy, deviant sexual intercourse with a person less than 14 years old, and 1 charge of statutory sodomy, deviant sexual intercourse with a person less than 14 years old, serious physical injury, according to court documents. Arnold is being held without bond in the Johnson County, Missouri jail in Warrensburg, Missouri, so that's like 45 minutes away from here. Yvonne Arnold, 55, of Chilhowie, who is his wife, is also charged with statutory sodomy, deviant sexual intercourse with a person less than 14 years old, causing serious injury. She is being held without bond as well in the Johnson County, Missouri jail. A court document filed in the Arnold case states that he allegedly molested one victim from 2004 to 2018, so that's 14 years. In arguing, Arnold poses a danger to his victims. A court document alleges he sexually assaulted 2 juvenile victims systemically over a decade. They must have adopted these kids or were fostering these kids. They had to have adopted them because, for them to be able to do this over a period of decades. The Arnolds referred to themselves as the king and queen of their residence, which they called Vaslavia, and they said that the place was so dilapidated and nasty and dirty that it wasn't even fit for human habitation. They had no electricity and no running water in this house. Little Podunk town in Missouri. It says court documents also noted that the victims were allegedly subjected to beatings and mental abuse by Gregory and Yvonne. So this month, this couple got charged with additional charges in connection to the murder of their newborn baby, who died within an hour after his birth in 2009. So this was 15 years ago that she had a baby, and the baby died. It says Yvonne Patricia Arnold and Gary Dean Arnold are charged with abuse of a child resulting in death and second-degree murder. A probable cause statement says, despite being advised to go to the hospital, Yvonne gave birth at home. The Arnolds still did not seek medical attention for the child after birth, as they believed it was going to die either way. The next day, the couple buried the baby in their backyard. When the family moved homes, the Arnolds reportedly had some of the other children, the ones that they were abusing, dig the body of the baby up to take to their new residence, and they were told not to tell anyone. The infant's body displayed multiple blisters believed to have been the size of a hand. So I guess they were hitting the baby to see if the baby would. They were hitting the baby. Anytime they had to hit that baby awful hard for that baby's body to still have blisters after 15 years. They killed that baby. That's why they got hit with murder charges. Investigators noted that the Arnolds knew the child was sick but refused to provide it with medical care before it died. Law enforcement officials indicated that a search warrant was executed at the home, during which an evacuation revealed the infant's burial site. Both Arnolds were taken into custody last September on child sex crimes charges relating to a separate case. In this case, decades of child sex crimes were documented. And I did the news story, which I couldn't find a video to post up here, but the video is on the news channel, giving details about these people. Over the years, the neighbors would report and call the authorities on these people. And that's what the neighbors were saying when they gave interviews to the news reporter, saying, why did it take 20 years for them to finally do something about this when we have been calling Child Protective Services to come and intervene? So it says, in this case, decades of child sex crimes were documented. As a result of this investigation, Yvonne and Gregory have been charged with child abuse and murder in the second degree. As of Thursday, both remain behind bars without bond. So these charges were in addition to the other charges that they had in September. They've got new charges. So why did it take all this time for them to discover this? They were not only molesting the kids that they had in their custody, but they also killed a newborn baby and made those kids bury that baby's body. And then when they moved, they made them dig the baby's body back up and rebury it again in the new place, in the new house, in the yard of the new place. If that ain't wicked and demonic, I don't know what is. And I just would like to know what. Missouri, I believe, has a death penalty. This deserves death. I'm sorry. This is deserving of the death penalty. So they're like 56. These people are in their 50s, in their mid 50s. So we'll see. Boy, I tell you, like the Bible said, wickedness will increase. What is that? That scripture that talks about in the last days, man, wickedness will increase. And this is my favorite quote that I always say to myself. Is that, Yancy, just when you think you have been exposed to all the evil imaginable, another form is invented every day. They invent new ways, like the Bible said, they invent new ways to commit evil that you just can't even imagine and conceive in your mind. There's a new story of a new way that they have found to commit evil. It's just something that you just can't even wrap your mind out around. So you molest these kids. This couple molest these kids. You murder their own newborn baby, and make the kids dispose of the baby's body. Not once, but twice. And the neighbors reported it to the authorities, and nobody did nothing about it. These ain't nothing but some inbred demonic. I don't know, man. These are some demons. Inbred demon hicks. They probably just give them life in prison, but they deserve the death penalty. Number 4, what is this fourth story I got here? It says, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents made hundreds of arrests during enforcement actions across the country on Thursday. So yeah, Trump has basically started, they've activated ICE's mass deportation operation, and they've rounded up so far 538 arrests, according to a post that they posted on X. They had 373 detainers that were lodged as well. They made 538 arrests, and 373 detainers were lodged. In Newark, New Jersey Mayor Ross Baraka said ICE agents raided a seafood store and detained 3 people. The store owner told PIX11 News that a U.S. military veteran was among those people detained. An ICE spokesman released the following statement. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement may encounter U.S. citizens while conducting field work and may request identification to establish an individual's identity, as was the case during a targeted enforcement operation at a work site on January 23rd in Newark, New Jersey. So they asked for everybody's ID. So they got tipped probably that, hey, there's illegals working at this seafood restaurant. So they raided it. And they ended up arresting, they said, 3 people. They detained 3 people. It was a seafood store. And so, what happened? And they're saying that they hemmed up a veteran who was a citizen. And so the owner, Luis Janata, the owner of the Ocean Seafood Depot in Newark, told the news that he believed the Hispanic workers were targeted when they were asked for papers by the agents. That's just like how they used to do black people during the during slavery. What they used to ask black people, where your papers at? So they getting the treatment that black people got during slavery when they ask, when you get stopped and they make you ask, where your papers at? Black people still get stopped and asked where your papers at, even to this day. They never stopped with us. It says they did not ask me for documentation for my American workers, Portuguese workers, or white workers, the owner said. The owner said 10 or 12 ICE agents entered the retail area after receiving complaints and were looking for documentation. They did not ask for anyone specific. I was confused. They took 3 people who did not have any documentation on them. I asked the agents what documentation they were looking for, and they said it was a license or a passport. And I thought, who walks around with a passport? The raid comes just days after Donald Trump signed his executive order, stating that federal immigration authorities can arrest people at sensitive locations. Okay. So yeah. So did they make any arrests? That's what I'm saying. They raided the restaurant and they detained the people, but it didn't say that they made any arrests. They just detained the people. They took 3 people who did not have any documentation, but it didn't say they made any arrests. They just raided them. That's weird. Okay, moving along. But then another story. They said they made 538 arrests the first day they started raiding, though. 538 arrests. And I do have another video, and I'm gonna get to that later, of where they did deport some migrants, Mexican nationalists, back to Mexico or Guatemala by airplane. So they're getting it started. And since President Trump also said Friday he planned to sign an executive order, he didn't win executive order crazy now. And see, the thing about him is that he thinks that he can treat this government like his own private corporation, where he can just, with the stroke of a pen, terminate people's employment and get rid of whole government departments. That's what he thinks. But he's going to be met with a lot of blowback and a lot of court challenges, constitutional challenges, by doing that, because he can't just write an executive order and trample over people's constitutional rights and collective bargaining agreement rights. He's trying to be a dictator. He's trying to conduct himself as a king, and he doesn't realize that he is a president of a democracy, of a democratic system, and he can't just do that. He wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or Melania pee in his Wheaties or whatever, or he get a wild hair up his butt, and he just go and write an executive order and destroy people's lives. You can't do that. You can't wreck government just by the stroke of your pen. I don't care how powerful a person thinks they are. They got to be checks and balances. And he is going to be met with all kind of court challenges with these executive orders that he's writing. So this executive order, he said he's going to try to, he's going to may include a recommendation to abolish FEMA. He's going to either try to overhaul FEMA or either try to abolish it, get rid of it. His words, quote, get rid of it. He says this, criticizing FEMA's disaster response efforts in North Carolina, and now he's also blaming Gavin Newsom and the mayor in LA of the fires that are going on out there in LA, which they have no control. They are not to blame for that, period. That's just, but of course, he always has to have somebody to blame. So Trump, who spoke during a visit to Asheville, North Carolina, said he would sign an executive order fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, quote unquote, including maybe getting rid of the agency, quote unquote. Although he did not specify what changes will be made to FEMA. Trump suggested disaster aid funding would come directly from the federal government, but he would, leave it up to the states. I think that the problem should be taken care of by the state. He said the federal government would supply a lot of money to repair damage caused by Hurricane Helene, which devastated Asheville and other parts of the Southeast in September. And the reason why he's doing that is because a lot of those people are straight up rednecks that were affected by Hurricane Helene. A lot of them are in the mountains and in the woods and stuff. Poor white people, Appalachia, big Trump supporters. And that's the only reason why he's going so hard for them in the Carolinas and in those areas in Appalachia. Because I guarantee you, if it was in New Orleans or down south in Mississippi, he wouldn't be doing all this. So yeah, he's talking about getting rid of FEMA, but that's not going to happen. And just give the money to the states. First of all, the states probably don't have the manpower or the capacity to even fight natural disasters like that. I don't care how much money he gives to them. It's just not going to happen. He doesn't have an alternative solution if he gets rid of FEMA, which I doubt. FEMA ain't going nowhere. Republicans and Democrats will probably challenge that in Congress, and it's probably not going to fly in court. He's not going to just at the stroke of an executive pen, with an executive order, get rid of a whole federal agency. That's not going to happen. He doesn't have the power to do that. As much as he thinks he does, he doesn't. I told this is already starting crazy. He ain't even been back in office a week, has it been? And it's just all kind of chaos and confusion happening. But these people thought he was going to come in and make America great again, doing this little corny YMCA dance, and they thought he was going to come in and make their lives better, make America great again. The golden age is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's already starting out. But anyway, let's see. So he's talking about getting rid of FEMA and just giving the states money to fight and handle their own natural disasters. But he don't have no real practical or doable alternative to FEMA. So this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. Okay, so enough of him with the FEMA. You always got to have somebody to blame and point fingers. California's still burning. Meantime, there's another fire that broke out in LA. I think it was today or yesterday. The Hughes fire was the day before yesterday that broke out. Now another one. There's so many of them popping up all over the place. I can't hardly keep up with them. Now this is another one. They said in the Otay Mountains or somewhere. It's called the Border 2 fires that has happened out there in LA. Another one. And I think it's only about 20% contained. So he went out there to go talk to the mayor, Karen Bass, and I guess he's going to meet with Gavin Newsom, but it is what it is. I think people are out there setting those fires anyway. It's supposed to rain in California, so. But anyway, moving along. U.S. Secretary of State, the new United States Secretary of State, Marco Antonio Rubio, has announced on January 24th that they are cutting spending on all most foreign aid grants for 90 days. So they are cutting off all federal aid to other countries for 90 days. They announced that on January 24th, which was yesterday. No more federal aid for 90 days. This directive took place. The State Department officials announced this by surprise, and it appears to include funding for military assistance to Ukraine. So that means they didn't just, I told y'all they was going to do that in my other videos, that they was going to cut Ukraine's water off. I told y'all this was going to happen in my other videos. When when Zelensky was trying to suck up to Donald Trump, I said he just don't know. Donald Trump is about to, I knew that he's going to do this to Ukraine. And they just abruptly stopped all foreign aid and military assistance to Ukraine, which I felt they was wasting money over there anyway because Ukraine was fighting a losing war with Russia. But they've pretty much stopped all military aid or military assistance to Ukraine and Taiwan. So that makes Ukraine now vulnerable to Russia. They're pretty much they're going to lose the war to Russia now. 90 days, it's a done deal. He just handed Ukraine to Putin and Russia because he couldn't bully Putin into ending the war either way, because he tried to cowboy talk Putin into ending the war with Ukraine, but that wasn't going to fly with Russia or Putin or the Kremlin or the oligarchs. That wasn't going to fly. So I knew Trump was going to do it anyway. He cut off all assistance to Ukraine so that, Ukraine can only rely on its other allies and NATO countries. But America was Ukraine's biggest backer in this war with Russia. And now that Trump has pulled that support, Ukraine is probably going to lose the war. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't off Zelensky. Zelensky better go and find a bunker somewhere and hide because he's on borrowed time pretty much now. Since this has happened, I knew Trump was going to do it though. I said it in my other videos on YouTube. He was going to cut off Ukraine. Because what they're going to do is, and then also they've cut off, that means they've cut off aid to Taiwan too. And so China can invade Taiwan because Trump is not trying to cross Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. Because Putin, Xi Jinping Kim Jong-un and the Ayatollah over there in Iran, they are united front right now. The kings of the north, kings of the east, they are united front. And Trump does not want to enter into a World War III with these nations. So this is why he is doing what he's doing, because he wants to be the man of peace. So he claims he's going to be the man of peace. He's going to bring peace with the Russia-Ukraine war, with China and Taiwan, and Israel and Iran in the Middle East. And he wants to get credit for that, being a president who brings peace to the world, which is what the Antichrist is going to do in the end time. That's what the Bible says. It's going to be a false sense of peace and safety, and then sudden destruction. And it's all lining up with Bible prophecy, just as prophesied in Revelations. So, and I think it was Ezekiel, and just the Antichrist. It speaks about how the Antichrist is going to come, and pretend to be a man of peace. But really, he's the man of lawlessness, the man of sin, who is the son of perdition. And it's going to be a false sense of peace, and then sudden destruction. And things are just going to go downhill from there. Um, and it's all falling into prophetic place day after day, just as the Bible prophesied 2,000 years ago. So the false peace is taking place with the Abraham Accords. They're going to get that implemented and up and implemented and all that stuff with Israel and its enemies. That peace treaty, the Abraham Accords, false sense of peace and safety, then sudden destruction. But that's in Isaiah, I think. Is it Isaiah, the false peace and safety prophecy? But that's happening. It's unfolding right. It's just so exact. The way the destruction of Damascus had happened back in November, just as the Bible says, Syria, Damascus, and all those cities got destroyed just the way the Bible in Jeremiah 49 said it was going to do. And now all of this stuff with the Antichrist and the beast system and all this stuff is just unfolding day after day after day. And so many people don't believe it. But yeah, they've just stopped all United States aid for 90 days. But they said there's an exception. They said that they have not cut off no aid to Israel and Egypt. Let me see. According to a document obtained by the news outlet, the guidance requires staff to issue stop work orders on nearly all existing foreign assistance rewards effective immediately. That includes Ukraine and Taiwan. So this is the perfect time now for China to go in and invade Taiwan. And pretty much he just handed Ukraine to Putin. Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, better be in a bunker somewhere. Okay. So yeah, there's an exception. They're going to continue aid to, they're going to continue still. It says while the document allows some exceptions, such as foreign military financing for Egypt and Israel, and also emergency food assistance and legitimate expenses incurred prior to the date of this guidance. Its broad scope leaves room for interpretation. It also states that the decision must remain consistent with the terms of the relevant award. Officials believe the halt will affect key allies, including Ukraine, Jordan, and Taiwan. They pretty much handed Ukraine to Russia, and they're gonna that's handing Taiwan to China because Trump don't want to get on Xi Jinping and Putin's bad side. Trump is going to focus on Iran. Trump is going to help Israel destroy Iran. So this war's been going on for 3 years, nearly 3 years, and this is how it's going to end: is that Trump is just going to cut off all military assistance and arms, dealing with Ukraine. He's just going to cut it off. Okay. Also, Trump says that he will not impose tariffs if Canada becomes the 51st state, but Canadian officials have adamantly refused his proposal and wants no parts of the United States. And I don't blame Canada. Can you blame Canada? Why would they? Let's weigh the advantages and the disadvantages of why Canada does not want no parts of the United States. They don't want to be no 51st state of America. I don't blame them. Not one bit. Not one bit. So he really believes that. Like he thinks he sent his son to Greenland and think Greenland is going to be sold to America. Russia's not going to let that happen. That's a pipe dream. So He really think that he is going to make Canada a 51st state. Just delusional, man. Why would Canada go from bad to worse like that? Why would it? That's just stupid. Okay, so it says the idea, I asked ChatGPT, and it says the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state of the U.S. is highly hypothetical and unlikely. And so it breaks down the possible advantages of and disadvantages of that. It said Canada would gain full access to the U.S. economy, which is the largest in the world, but the U.S. economy is trash now. Trade barriers between the two countries would disappear, potentially benefiting businesses, which means that's what Trump means, that he wouldn't impose tariffs like he's going to do a lot of the other countries that trade with the United States. It says Canada could benefit from a stronger currency, which is, the U.S. dollar compared to the Canadian dollar. It says Canada would gain full protection under the U.S. military and NATO influence. Don't nobody mess with Canada anyway. So why? And what's the point? Canada's a member of NATO. So why would Canada? Canada, they don't make. They don't need. They don't need. That Canada don't get into wars with nobody. Intelligence sharing and defense coordination will be streamlined. No, it just wouldn't benefit Canada in that way. Increased political influence. Canadians would have a say in U.S. elections, including presidential elections. So yeah, they would get a chance to vote in the presidential elections, but Canadian representatives would be members of Congress, U.S. Congress, and giving them direct influence over policy. So yeah, Canada would have representatives in Congress, but why would they want to be a part of this clown Congress? You see the shenanigans that's going on up there, the foolery, the dog and pony shows that go up there with them clowns in Congress. Canada don't want no parts of that. It's embarrassing on a world stage, and they don't want no parts of that. Infrastructure and development. The U.S. might invest more in Canadian infrastructure, similar to what happens in Alaska and other states. Larger federal budgets could improve roads, public transportation, and other services. And some other advantages, it says no passports or border restrictions for Canadians traveling to the U.S. and vice versa. So what? Businesses could operate seamlessly across territories. So what? You could travel between Canada and the United States easily. We can do that anyway. You just go across the bridge. When I lived up in Detroit, all you had to do is just cross the bridge, as long as you got your passport and necessary transport papers and everything and your clearances. So that's not a really big advantage. So some disadvantages would be Canada would no longer be an independent country, losing control over its foreign policy, military, and national identity. Canadians are very proud of being Canadians. It would be governed by U.S. federal laws, which may not align with Canadian values. So true. Weaker social programs. Canada's universal healthcare system could be dismantled or significantly altered under U.S. policies. Social programs, social safety net programs such as education and welfare could shift toward a more privatized U.S. model. And we already know Canada's social programs are way better than the social safety net programs over here in the United States. They have universal health care. They have higher unemployment, higher minimum wage, all of that. It says political and cultural differences. Many Canadians have different views on issues such as gun control, health care, and social justice compared to Americans. And also, Canada is a bilingual country, with French and English. French Canadian, French and English. And this could be undermined, affecting Quebec and other French speaking regions in Canada. They don't want that. So while the U.S. economy is strong, Canada would be vulnerable to American economic instability, such as the recession and debt crisis and all of this mess that's going on over here with the U.S. economy. The student loan crisis, the credit card debt crisis, the mass layoffs and industries leaving the United States, and just that Canada wants no parts of it. They got their own problems. Industries like banking, energy, and natural resources could be controlled by American corporations. Canada does not want that. Since Canada's population is around 40 million, could be a minority compared to the U.S., which is over 330 million, meaning Canadian voices would be drowned out in Washington. Some regions, particularly Quebec, might resist integration altogether. Quebec probably would want no parts of America. Like a lot of the Native American community here, the tribes and the sovereign Native American communities want no parts of America. So Quebec might, do the same thing and just resist any type of integration or assimilation into mainstream American culture altogether. So while there are economic and security benefits, the loss of sovereignty, Cultural differences and potential weakening of Canada's social safety net programs make this unlikely that Canada would become a 51st state. I don't care how many tariffs Trump tries to impose upon Canada. Most Canadians strongly value their independence, and the idea of joining the U.S. would likely face strong opposition. And some of the differences between Canada and America's foreign safety net programs are just, man, Canada generally favors more government-funded services, while the U.S. relies more on privatization and state-level controlled social safety net programs. So, like Canada, they have universal public-funded health care through the Canada Health Act. All residents receive basic medical care funded through taxes. Services like doctor visits and hospital stays are free of charge to all Canadian citizens. In the U.S., there is no universal health care. A lot of uninsured people are in the U.S. Our healthcare system in the U.S. is a mix of private insurance, employer-sponsored plans, and government programs such as Medicare and Medicaid and TRICARE. Many Americans pay for private insurance or receive coverage through work, often with high deductible and copays. And some of the very poor people, low-income people, they may receive Medicaid, Medicare, TRICARE, and Medicaid is a state programs, healthcare programs for the poor. So the key differences is that Canada guarantees health care for all of its citizens, and the U.S. coverage depends on employment, income, and ability to pay. So there's no way Canada will want to merge into the U.S. and change that. Education. Public education is well funded and standardized in Canada, with provincial governments ensuring affordability. University tuition is lower than in the U.S., but it's still not free, but it's just way lower. In the U.S. education quality varies state to state. The quality of education in the United States varies state to state because some education is 49 states, 50 states here in the United States, and each all have different qualities of education and significant funding disparities. Public universities charge sky-high tuitions, and student loan debt is a major issue here in the United States. So Canada's public universities are more affordable, while in the U.S., higher education can be extremely expensive. And a lot of higher education expenses will result in lifetime debt for most people who can't afford to outright pay for their college education. So, social welfare and poverty assistance. Canada have programs like the Canada Child Benefit, which is CCB, provide direct cash assistance to families with children. Employment insurance, EI, provides temporary financial aid to unemployed workers. In the U.S., welfare programs such as Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Programs, SNAP, food stamps, and temporary assistance for needy families exist, but eligibility is stricter and benefits are often lower compared to Canada. So Canada's social safety net is generally more generous and widely accessible. Parental leave. In Canada, up to 18 months of paid parental leave funded through employment insurance is granted to parents. 18 months. In the U.S., there is no federally mandated paid parental leave. Some states' employers offer leave, but it's often unpaid. And a lot of times people end up losing their jobs if they take extended FMLA. We call it FMLA over here. Canada calls it paid parental leave. And it's only FMLA over in the States is only 12 weeks, I believe. So Canada offers significantly better parental leave policies. Retirement and pensions. In Canada, government-funded pensions include the Canadian Pension Plan and Old Age Security, OAS. Seniors receive regular payments regardless of employment history. So when you get old, you just receive your regular old age security payments. It's kind of like our Social Security or SSI, SSDI over here. Seniors get regular payments regardless of their employment history. So if they never work, they still get that monthly check. They get those payments regardless of their employment history. But over here in the United States, Social Security is the main pension system funded through payroll taxes. However, benefits can be lower and people often rely on personal retirement savings, 401ks, and IRAs because a lot of times Social Security is just not enough. And then they're saying that Social Security may run out in the next decade. It's not guaranteed to be there for future generations because it's going to run out. So Canada's system is more centralized and covers more retirees with more stable benefits. Unemployment benefits. Canada's unemployment provides up to 55% of previous earnings for eligible workers who lose their jobs for up to 45 weeks. In the U.S., unemployment benefits vary by state, but typically only provide 40 to 50% of previous earnings for a shorter duration, which is up to 26 weeks. So what is that like? 26 weeks is like what? 6 months. Canada's is almost a year. The key difference is Canada's unemployment benefits last longer and cover a higher percentage of lost wages. Minimum wage and worker protections. In Canada, each province sets its own minimum wage, usually higher than in the U.S. Workers have stronger union protections in Canada also. In the U.S., the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, though states may have higher rates. Workers in many industries have weaker labor protections. And with Trump signing this new executive order, just gutting EEOC and affirmative action and things like that, workers at the federal, in the public sector and the private industry have even more weaker protections job-wise now. So there's no job security anymore in America. But in Canada, they have strong union protections in Canada and higher minimum wage. So overall, Canada offers a stronger government-funded social program, social safety net system in healthcare, parental leave, welfare, unemployment, and also older senior financial aid programs. While the U.S. relies more on private sector solutions and state-run programs, this means Canadians generally have more social protections, but also pay higher taxes to fund them. But Canada still has its problems, and there's a video that I posted where the Canadians are complaining that they're having a hard time making ends meet and complaining about the rising cost of living over in Canada, and lower quality of life because of their stagnant income is just not keeping up with the inflation over in Canada. But they're not in as bad a predicament as people in the United States are. So them becoming a 51st state in the United States, they would go from bad to worse, and they just don't want to do that, and I don't blame them. So not at all. I don't blame them at all. Let's see. So no, that 51st state is not going to happen with Canada. They don't want to be a part of the United States, and I don't, that's just not going to happen. I don't care what Trump says, what he does. In other news, speaking of employment, President Trump's administration is testing a new capability that would allow officials to email the entire federal government workforce from a single email address. The Office of Personnel Management, which is the OPM, that's the department, the federal government department that handles all federal, it's the HR for the federal government. And so they're trying to create a system where all federal employees will receive email from a single email address from the OPM, probably the DOGE. So this new capability could allow Trump to communicate directly with millions of federal workers across dozens of agencies simultaneously with a single click of a mouse, one email. The White House declined to comment on this. The effort aligns with the government modernization goals of the new Department of Government Efficiency headed by tech billionaire Elon Musk, and could take advantage of his team's engineering experience as they seek to wring savings and efficiencies from government systems. When Musk took over Twitter in 2022, when he bought Twitter, he told employees in a single email, his entire Twitter workforce, that they needed to be extremely hardcore, work long hours at high intensity, and only exceptional performance will constitute a passing grade. Notably, Twitter employees also had to click yes on a document to confirm that they wanted to keep working at the company. So federal workers at agencies, including the Departments of State and Justice, began receiving these test emails from the system on Thursday morning and on Thursday and early into Friday morning. So this was yesterday and Thursday, yesterday and the day before yesterday, Thursday and Friday of this week. They began receiving these test emails. All federal workers at all agencies, including the Department of State and Justice, they start sending these test emails. So some employees thought the email might have been spam. Looks like a phishing attempt, one federal worker told NBC. But a Justice Department official sent a separate message saying that the email should be considered trusted. Oh, it was the real deal. But that they should use the agency's phishing tools should they suspect you know, about any other suspicious emails. One federal worker described it as a mandatory federal government group chat. Another said the requirement to reply yes made the email feel like something out of 1984. A new system to communicate, except that OPM has always had an emergency text and email system, a Justice Department employee texted. That's just for the Justice Department, though. They're creating, well, it said OPM has always had an emergency text and email system. Okay, but you're supposed to email back and respond yes. Maybe they're testing who blindly follows orders. No, honey. They're setting up a government-wide email system to where when they get ready to lay y'all off and deliver y'all bad news, they're going to do it on the email or on a group chat or a Zoom call like they have done so many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees that they have done, that have, corporations and businesses have done in the private industry. Elon Musk and Donald Trump want to be able to send y'all out mass emails, all you federal government workers. I don't care what grade you are, if you're an expected service appointment, if you're, high GS 14, 13, 11s, whatever. They want to be able to send these emails out to the entire federal government workforce. So when they get ready to lay you off or reduction in force you or get rid of you or anything, they can just do it at the click of an email. So also, they'll be able to track all y'all emails, which they do that anyway, but it would just give them tighter control over being able to track and monitor all emails across the board with all government employees. So this is not good news at all. So expect the worst with this government-wide email system that they're creating, especially when Elon Musk is at the head of it and Donald Trump is at the head of it, because you all know that there is no job security under these two. So even as government employees now, job security is out the window, unfortunately. It's just bad news. Expect the worst. And I'm really sorry for that. In addition to this, several companies have pulled back DEI programs. This is going to be a long video. Several companies, a lot going on. Several companies have pulled back DEI programs amid backlash from a conservative activist and Donald Trump, the Trump administration. This is all part of Project 2025. Companies have withdrawn or toned down DEI initiatives include Ford, Meta, McDonald's, and Walmart. Many of these companies have faced pressure from conservatives to roll back their policies, their DEI policies, and their DEI programs. Some of them have just flat out eliminated them. Meta and Walmart are two of the latest companies to roll back their diversity, equity, and inclusion plans. The move away from DEI policies is part of an ongoing wave of backlash against diversity programs at American companies. This is all headed by MAGA, the Trump administration, Elon Musk, and the whole right-wing conservative agenda, pretty much. Project 2025. Get rid of affirmative action, DEI, get rid. It's just an erosion. They're eroding any type of protection programs, protecting workers against discrimination in the workplace, pretty much. Tech companies such as Microsoft, Meta, and Zoom cut DEI programs last year, and law firms, including Winston and Strawn, face lawsuits for affirmative action. They're bringing reverse racism lawsuits, saying that they were discriminated against because of affirmative action because they were white or because they were Asian or something like that, something stupid like that. Those reverse racism lawsuits. And these conservatives and Trump and all of them, they're even fighting for reparations for these people. These reverse racist so-called victims, they're even fighting for reparations for these people. Yeah. Some DEI initiatives have faced backlash from conservatives, including monitoring social media campaigns. They're really just going all out, man. So, 61% of Americans support DEI practices, according to a Washington Post poll. The Human Rights Campaign slammed companies' DEI rollbacks in an August statement to Business Insider. Yeah, whatever. What can y'all do about it? Y'all disagree with it, but also, decisions to cut DEI initiatives send a clear signal to employees that their employers simply don't care about equality in the workplace. Putting politics ahead of workers and consumers only hurts the same folks that these businesses rely on, wrote Eric Blum, a nonprofit group's vice president of programs and corporate advocacy from the Human Rights Campaign. So now, Federal employees are also no longer protected from discrimination on the basis of protected characteristics such as race, sex, and religion after Donald Trump revoked the equal opportunity. He revoked the equal employment opportunity in an executive order. He revoked EEOC protections in an executive order. And that was implemented by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1965. So he rolled back a 60-year anti-discrimination executive order written by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1965 that prohibited federal contractors from discriminating in employment and required them to take affirmative action to ensure equal opportunity. The 60-year-old Act has been amended and strengthened over the years to protect federal contract workers from discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender, and national origin. Trump has just pretty much gutted those with this executive order. He's trying to executive order out the Civil Rights Act of 1964. He's going to face a lot of legal challenges in this, but considering that he has control of, well, his party, the Republicans have control of Congress, the Senate, of Congress. They have a conservative majority in the Supreme Court. They have both chambers of Congress. They have the Supreme Court, and they have the presidency at this point. So I'm not going to say what these people won't be able to do. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 might be a thing of the past, but it's going to face a lot of legal challenges. But I'm not going to say what these people won't do, because this everything that's over here in America is going to go from bad to worse. Unfortunately, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not one of those people that sit up there and try to act like everything is rosy and everything is going to be good and great and all this stuff. It's not. So people just need to prepare for this. Seriously, brace yourselves. So yeah, that's what he's done. And I got the video of the news clip about that. So yeah, y'all, man. So anyway, Alex Rudakabana, 18. He's a Southport killer that went on that knife that stabbed a spree in London, or Southport, England. These young girls were just attending a Taylor Swift dance class, and Rudakabana, age 18, just went in there and just stabbed these little girls and killed them. And he wounded 10 other people. They were just in a dance class, and this lunatic broke into that dance class and murdered these three little precious angels, these three little girls. Now he's black. He's from Rwanda or somewhere. His parents migrated over to England, and he was born in England, but his family is originally from Rwanda. And these three little young girls, they were white Englanders. But yeah, he's been convicted. They gave him 52 years. He's only 18, so if he lives to get 70, then he can get out and still live his life. He'll be an old man, but he still live his life. But they're not expecting him to survive in prison. They said he's the #1 target in there because you are a black immigrant, 18-year-old black immigrant that just stabbed and killed three little white girls and wounded 10 others. And not only that, he had been caught when they went and searched his room. He had ordered the ingredients to make ricin, and they said he had enough ricin in his room to kill 12,000 people. He also had a manual from Al Qaeda, a terrorist manual, in his room. They also said that when they arrested him, he made a statement about he was glad that the victims were dead. He actually said he was glad that the victims were dead. He was 17 years old at the time he committed these murders. And he said that he was glad that the victims were dead. So, under English law, the judge was not able to sentence him to hold his natural life in prison because he was 17, meaning he got 52 years, so he'll be released when he's 70 if he makes it, which he probably will not make it to 70. I'll be surprised if he survives 5 or 10 years in prison, because they said he is a #1 target over there. Because England is majority white, and you are a black immigrant that just killed, stabbed, 3 little young English white girls to death. So he's on borrowed time. He's on demon time. It's only a matter of time before they take him out. He probably won't make it 5 years in there. So they sentenced him on Thursday. And they said that while he was at the hearing, the Judge Goose, that's the judge's last name is Goose, Judge Julian Goose, said that Mr. Rudakabana had been determined to disrupt the hearing so that he would not have to face his victims' families, noting that his outburst had come after medical specialists had examined him that morning and determined him fit to attend his sentencing hearing. Prosecutors revealed the horrifying nature of the attack on July 29th as they read out the details of the case. Deanna Heer, a lawyer for the prosecution, said that Mr. Rudakabana had targeted the youngest, most vulnerable in order to spread the greatest level of fear and outrage, in which he succeeded in doing. She told the courtroom that while Mr. Rudakabana was under arrest at the police station after the attack, he was overheard saying, "It's a good thing those children are dead, and I'm so glad." Mrs. Heer recounted how he had traveled by taxi to Hart Space, where a sold-out Taylor Swift-themed dance class for children ages 6 to 11 was underway during the summer break from school. And then they have video evidence of showing him going to the school and trying to enter into the dance class, the dance studio. He was trying to get in there, and it showed how he gained interest into the dance studio. And also they had police worn body cameras, showed Mr. Rudakabana arriving outside the dance studio. He entered into the building and stabbed several children, as well as Leanne Lucas, who was one of the teachers who had organized the class. Moments later, screams could be heard on the footage before children were seen running from the building. Some were covered in blood and collapsed before bystanders helped them. So they were running covered in blood and collapsed before bystanders helped them. Several people wept in the courtroom as the footage was shown, and some just chose to leave, overcome by emotions. The injuries suffered by B.B. King, she was 6, and Elsie Dot Stancombe, 7, were so severe that they died inside the building. Little Alice De Silva Aguiar, she was 9, and she ran outside, but she soon collapsed. She was taken to the hospital and died the next day. 8 other children and 2 adults, including Miss Lucas, were wounded. In a statement read out in court, Miss Lucas said that her injuries had affected her physically and mentally. "I, as do the girls, have scars we cannot unsee, scars we cannot move on from," she added. To discover that he had always set out to hurt the vulnerable is beyond comprehensible. It's like I said, it's just a new form of evil. For Alice, Elsie, BB, Heidi, and the surviving girls, I'm surviving for you. But amid the horror, there was also heroism. The court heard, that after Miss Lucas was stabbed in the back, she managed to usher the children out the door and urged them to run for safety, even as she bled from a severe wound. Another teacher in the dance studio, Heidi Liddy, also encouraged the children to flee before one girl ran toward the bathroom. Miss Liddy followed her inside, locked the door, and braced her foot against it to protect them. She told the girl not to make a sound. The police later rescued them uninjured. John Hayes, a businessman who worked nearby, rushed to Hart Space and tried to grab the knife from Mr. Rudakabana before being wounded. So he got stabbed too, trying to take the knife from him. 2 window cleaners also working nearby, Marcin Tajan and Joel Verity, heard the commotion and ran to the scene. Mr. Tajan gave CPR to little Alice in a parking lot outside. Mr. Verity followed the police into the building, picked up BB, and carried her little body out of the building, screaming as he did so because of the severity of her injuries. Of course, she didn't make it. She was the ones that didn't survive. Since Mr. Rudakabana pleaded guilty, a portrait of a deeply troubled young man obsessed with violence has emerged, and as has the fact that he was on the radar of local authorities for years before the attack at Southport. It's a town north of Liverpool, England. After the attack, a series of anti-immigrant riots broke out. I remember that last year. I made a video about that. Riots broke out. They were burning down migrant hotels and things, and it was just chaos over there in the streets in England and in the UK for several weeks, due to rioting, because they have their own migrant crisis that they're dealing with. And so this knife attack that he did, it didn't help matters. It made matters worse. So this guy, Mr. Rudakabana, this demon, he's a British citizen. He was born in Wales, but like I said, his parents originated from Rwanda. And when he was 13 and 14, he was referred 3 times to Prevent, a British counterterrorism program. He was already known to have these violent terrorist tendencies when he was 13 and 14 years old. The first time was for researching school shootings during class in 2019. They caught him on the computer looking up school shootings in 2019. Then in 2021, he was referred for uploading images of Colonel Muammar el-Gaddafi, the Libyan dictator, to his Instagram account, and then for researching the London Bridge terrorist attack. But those referrals were ultimately dropped because it was determined each time that he did not meet the threshold for intervention. So they were on notice that this lunatic had these terrorist violent tendencies. There was no evidence that he described any particular political or religious ideology, the police and prosecutors said. Content found on Mr. Rudakabana's computer and tablet showed a long-standing fascination with violence, killing, and genocide. The material included a history of Nazi Germany. That's just like the little boy, Solomon Henderson, that just did the Nashville school shootings over here. He was fascinated with Nazi and Hitler and neo-Nazi violence and school shootings and things like that. They found the exact same thing just this last week with this boy who killed this 16-year-old student in the Nashville school and then turned around and did it himself, and he injured another student. But he had the same tendencies that this Rwandan boy did. This they both was obsessed with Nazi Germany and violence and school shootings. Some of his material included history of Nazi Germany, reports on violence in modern Sri Lanka, documents about war in Chechnya, a book on clan cleansing in Somalia, academic reports on the Rwandan genocide, and a paper on punishments used on enslaved people on 18th century British plantations. He was just sadistic. He was sadistic minded. Yeah, I like true crime and I like looking at documentaries and stuff about this stuff. But some people, they look at this stuff and it inspires them. They have a tendency to commit. They just have violent demonic tendencies, and so this just was his thing. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on Tuesday that the attack was a sign of that terrorism in the country was evolving and that young people were being radicalized by a tidal wave of violence freely available online. Yeah, because he was online researching this stuff. And then how the heck did he slip past authorities when ordering ingredients for ricin? And they said he had enough ricin to kill 12,000 people. And all this information on Al Qaeda, because he downloaded a PDF file titled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants, the Al Qaeda Training Manual. He had this in his possession, and he had been on their radar since he was 13. So that was 4 years. He had been on their radar, but they didn't do anything about it. Just like the case with the child abusers here in Missouri. These people had been on their radar. They had been reported by their neighbors, but still nothing was done. These people dropped the ball. So that's just worldwide with these agencies dropping the ball. A lot of this stuff could have been prevented. So yeah, they gave him 52 years. This boy had terrorist tendencies, so it didn't say that he had any ties or connection to Al Qaeda, but he was just inspired by all of the violence that he was researching on the internet, and he just had a predisposition for violence, and this is what motivated him to commit this act of terrorism. But they gave him 52 years. He's a marked man. He's a target, and I doubt if he makes it 10 years, he'll probably be killed in prison. And he showed no remorse at all. They said he's not eating. He's trying to starve himself to death or something, and they had to take him to the hospital or whatever. But I think he's in there trying to starve himself to death because he knows that they're gonna deal with him when he gets to prison. So, coward, you're gonna kill some little defenseless kids and women in a dance class, in a Taylor Swift dance class, and that's why those men are gonna handle him when he gets to prison. So I'll give him 10 years tops. He's not gonna make it. The guards are even gonna deal with him. So, moving on. Officials have released new information that identifies the person who allegedly shot and killed United States Border Patrol agent David Chris Malland in northern Vermont earlier this week. Yes, I remember they said a Border Patrol agent on the Canadian border was murdered. I saw the news story a few days ago, but I'm just now really reading it and looking at the video, and I posted it on my YouTube. So this was a Border Patrol agent. He was 44 years old. He had previously worked at the Pentagon, so he ended up working on the border in Canada. and his post was in northern Vermont. Court documents obtained by NBC5 show that 21-year-old Teresa Youngblood has been charged in federal court with using a deadly weapon to assault, resist, or impede federal law enforcement, and another charge of assault with a deadly weapon in the fatal shooting. An affidavit using the charging documents provide new details on what led up to the shooting that led up to Malin's death. So this girl is 21 years old. She is from Washington State. Her name is Teresa Youngblood. They only charged her with using a deadly weapon, assault with a deadly weapon, resist or impede federal law enforcement, and assault. Why she's not charged with murder, I don't know. Because I'm going to tell y'all what happened. She was with a German national. I guess it was her boyfriend or something. She's 21. Let me just read the report. It says, according to the FBI, several Border Patrol agents and 3 marked vehicles, including Malin, the victim, stopped a blue Toyota Prius driven by Teresa Youngblood on Interstate 91 in Coventry, Vermont. Felix Bocalt, a German national, I guess this was her boyfriend, was in the passenger seat of the vehicle and she was driving. Bocalt, I'm going to just call him Felix. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's a German nationalist. He was found to have an expired visa by the Department of Homeland Security database when they ran his name. According to other agents at the scene, Felix and Teresa had guns. And Teresa fired her gun toward at least one of the agents while she was in the driver's seat of the Prius during the stop. She started shooting. Her boyfriend attempted to draw his firearm, but he was shot. He was killed by the policeman. Before he could fire his firearm, they killed him. But he did draw his gun. He just wasn't quick enough on the draw. They fired it. They killed him before he could let off his shots. The boy was killed. The boyfriend was killed at the scene. He died at the scene. The documents show that at least one Border Patrol agent returned fire with his service weapon. Youngblood was said to have fired 2 shots, while the Border Patrol agents fired 7 times. Both Teresa and Felix were injured in the shooting, as well as Agent Malin, who died at the scene. The boyfriend, Felix, also died at the scene. Youngblood, the girl, Teresa Youngblood, she was transferred to North Country Hospital and then transferred to Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, where she remains in treatment. So she got wounded, and she didn't die, but the boyfriend died. They both just started shooting. Why they started shooting? Because he had a retired visa. I mean, he had an expired visa, I guess. The Border Patrol agent Malin was rushed to North County Hospital for treatment, but was pronounced dead less than an hour later. 2 guns as well as ammunition magazines were recovered from the Prius. Teresa Youngblood was also, she had a Washington State driver's license. Investigators found cell phones wrapped in aluminum foil and multiple laptops at the scene after it was searched. A later search by the FBI found tactical gear, including a ballistic helmet, a night vision monocular, a tactical belt, and hollow point ammunition inside the Prius, in addition to a package of shooting range targets and 2 handheld 2-way radios. A journal belonging to Youngblood was included in the items seized. So they took her journal to just kind of figure out what were these 2 up to. He was a German national, so basically he was here illegally on an expired visa, and she was from Washington State. And just hours before the shooting, Youngblood and Felix and Teresa, I'm just going to call them that, had been observed by law enforcement at the Walmart in Newport. Law enforcement was watching them because they had went to a hotel in Lyndonville, which is a small town up there, and said an employee said that they were dressed in tactical gear and openly carrying, guns. They said Teresa had a gun, carrying a gun in an exposed holster. So they notified law enforcement and told them that we got 2 guests here carrying open carrying firearms, dressed in tactical gear as guests at this hotel. So they started surveilling them and observing them. And so they saw them at Walmart buying aluminum foil, and they wrapped these phones in aluminum foil. So the police reached out to the pair and they stopped them. And they claimed that they were there in the area to purchase real estate. Investigators later observed Youngblood and Bocalt wearing the same tactical dress on January 19th in downtown Newport, with Teresa seen carrying a firearm again. So if convicted of the charges, Teresa faces 10 years to life in prison. She should have been charged with murder. Because usually when in a situation like this, she shot first. She fired first. Then the boyfriend pulled out his gun and fired, but he got killed before he could shoot his gun. And he died at the scene. The Border Patrol agent later died at the hospital from his gunshot wounds. Why Teresa is not charged with felony murder and murder or capital murder? These are federal charges now because they killed a Border Patrol agent. She should be facing the death penalty, but they only charged her with assault with a deadly weapon. Her charges need to be upgraded to murder, and she should be charged not only with the Border Patrol agent's death, she should also be charged with her boyfriend's death, because anytime you are in the commission of a felony and anybody dies, whether it's your partner in crime or the police, you get charged for everybody's deaths. So I don't know why this young lady is not being charged with murder and felony murder in addition to other charges, and carrying all these tactical, all this stuff, all this equipment. What were they up to? Did they belong to a militia? Did they belong to a neo-Nazi group? Because he's a German nationalist. What? These two were up to something. So she lived. I guess they'll get down to the bottom of it and figure out what they were doing. The way that they can get it out of her is that they threaten her with the death penalty, because this is a federal crime. She killed a Border Patrol agent. And so while they're so focused on Mexico and that southern border, there's a lot of other terrorists from all over the world are coming in through that Canadian border too. So she should be getting the death. She should be charged with murder. They need to upgrade her charges. I don't know why they only got these charges on her. 10 years to life, honey. She should be facing the death penalty. They might upgrade her charges though. Hopefully they get to the bottom of it and see just what these two were up to. So rest in peace. He's the Border Patrol agent, Christopher Marland. His name is David Christopher Marland. He was 44. He's 44. And so he was engaged to be married. He had a fiance. That's if he had kids. He had a brother and our son, brother, and fiance. He said, "We are deeply touched at the outpouring of love and support for our son, brother, and fiance." They went on and said to think people who knew David Christopher Marland personally would reach out with condolences and beautiful words of support has been beyond our imagination. So that he's received widespread support from his law enforcement community and just members of the community. And the family is saying from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. So he died in the line of duty, but she should be facing more serious charges than what she's being charged with right now. But hopefully they can get some answers from her to see just what they were up to, because they were definitely up to something with telephones wrapped in aluminum foil. So this happened at the Canadian border up north. So they need to put military up there too while they're focusing on the Mexican border. They need to focus on the Canadian border too, because it's a lot of people, a lot of terrorists are entering through that Canadian border as well. Moving on. Speaking of illegal migrants, because that man, he had an expired visa, the German national. He was here illegally on an expired visa. And now this next story is another illegal migrant. This time, he was a Mexican. He was over here illegally. And he is a man who is a suspected driver in the fatal hit and run that killed 2 people, another double homicide. This is a fatal hit and run that killed 2 people in Urbana, Illinois. And this man was arrested on Wednesday in Milford, Texas, which is about an hour outside of Dallas. According to the Urbana, Illinois Police Department, at 9:26 a.m., the United States Marshal Service, based in Dallas, Texas, located and captured Juan Yahaziel, Juan Wazel Cien Suarez, Juan Wazel Cien Suarez, who was being sought by the Urbana Police Department. He got a long name. So this guy, he was a 26-year-old Mexican national residing in Urbana. He was identified through investigative leads as the owner and driver of the red Mitsubishi Outlander that caused the fatal traffic crash. The United States Marshal Service located him in Milford, Texas, an hour south of Dallas. He was riding on an El Expreso bus destined to Matamoros, Mexico. So he was on the way to Matamoros, Mexico. He was trying to leave because he knew he killed them 2 women. He probably was drunk driving and killed these 2 ladies. So he's a Mexican citizen who had been deported from the United States. He had been deported, just like the other guy that burned the woman alive on the subway in New York. He had been deported just like this guy had been deported before. So how did he end up back over here? He had been deported once from the United States. A Champaign County arrest warrant was issued on Monday after Urbana police detectives determined his identity. The crash ended the lives of Chloe Polzin and Catherine Abraham and injured other passengers in the Honda Civic while it was slowing or either stopped at the traffic signal on University Avenue at Kohler Avenue in Urbana. Champaign County warrants charges the Mexican national with reckless homicide and leaving the scene of a fatal injury crash. The U.S. Marshal Service leveraged their technological capabilities to track and locate this suspect. This type of partnership is essential to local law enforcement, and I would like to thank the women and men of the Urbana Police Department and the U.S. Marshal Service for their efforts in capturing this suspect, says Urbana Chief Police Larry D. Boone. So he did this crime. He killed these two young ladies, and then he got on a bus and headed back down to the border, back down to Mexico. But luckily, they apprehended him on that bus before he could get back down across the border. So they come over here and they commit these crimes and then they run back home. But luckily, he was apprehended before he could get away. But Mexico does have an extradition treaty. Um, so they would have extradited him back up here anyway. But he would have been able to probably hide somewhere deep down in South America. But they got him before he could make it to the border, fortunately. Because he would have probably went to another country down in South America, Cuba or somewhere, and hid and evaded capture and just been a fugitive down there. But they caught him before he could get back on the bus and run back on the other side of the border. But he was an illegal too. He'd been deported before and managed to get back over here. 2 people dead because of this. Man, it's illegal. Okay, so let me get to this. I said all this, and I go over these stories because in the end time, the Bible says that wickedness is going to increase. I talked about the fires. I always talk about the weather, all the strange weather patterns and stuff that's happening all over the world, especially with fire and ice here in the United States. You have freezing on the west. You have freezing on the East Coast, the Midwest, and the South in this country, and you have burning on the West Coast right now with Los Angeles burning down. So all of these strange things are happening, and it's just signs of the end times. We're at the end of time, at the end of this age, and there's just so many people that don't believe, despite all of these things that's happening with the wars and the things that's happening on a global scale, all of these different events taking place that's fulfilling Bible prophecy. People just do not believe that we are nearing the end of this age, and only thing we can do is just keep warning people and letting people know, look, this, and that is happening because the scriptures said this is going to happen. And we refer you to the scriptures always to back up everything that we're saying. Um, and this is just to encourage everybody, to get saved, get baptized. You just got to repent of your sins, ask God to forgive you so that you can be saved, get baptized, blood washed, and born again in the name of Jesus Christ, who is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that when Jesus does come back here, you want to be raptured with the church and to avoid having to endure the 7-year tribulation that is about to happen to this earth when Jesus comes into the clouds and collect his people away from here and take us up to the wedding supper of the Lamb. And y'all don't think this is true and that this is going to happen and believe this is some type of fairy tale or whatever. I don't know what else is going to convince you with everything that's happening in this world that the Bible has prophesied over 2,000 years ago that's taking place right now. Only thing we can do is just encourage you and just let you know that salvation is available to everybody who asks for it. God will not turn anybody away who seeks him and want him to save them away from the coming wrath, the day of the Lord, the tribulation that is about to affect this world on a global scale. When the 7-year tribulation happens, everybody in the world is going to be affected and is going to suffer behind the 7-year tribulation that's about to happen. But the way that you can save yourself from suffering through this time, you can get saved and get raptured with the church and be taken away and not have to suffer the wrath of God that is going to fall on this earth. So that's the only thing we can do is just keep sounding the alarm. And you got a lot of million things on this TikTok and on this YouTube and on these social media platforms that you can get in. You got tarot readers, you got demonic people that's on these things all hours of the day. Like I'm up late, they up late. And we just got to stay woke, stay alert, stay vigilant, and be watchful in these last days, like the Bible has instructed us to do as Christians, as believers, as followers of Jesus Christ. And we just got to snatch as many people out the fire as possible. So that's what I'm doing. That's what a lot of people do. And I'm going to tell you, even these wicked people, even these wicked rich people, they know that Jesus is coming back. The scripture says in James 2:19 that even the demons believe and shudder and tremble. The demons, Satan and his demons believe in Jesus Christ. They know Jesus is real. They know he's coming back. They believe, but they do not belong to God. They are not, they don't they believe in Jesus, but they don't belong to God. They are not saved, but they do believe. So it just, just to believe doesn't mean that you're saved. You have to believe, be baptized, blood washed, and born again. Because Jesus said, when he told Nicodemus, he said, verily I say to you, that unless you be born of water and spirit, you will not enter the kingdom. That's what Jesus said himself. So you can go, and if you don't believe me, you can Google it, look on your phone, open the Bible, and look at it and research it for yourself. Jesus himself said that unless you be baptized in water and spirit, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. So believing is not enough. So that's why I just like to encourage everybody. Don't ever think that you are so far gone in sin and wickedness that you can't be saved, because that is the biggest lie that the devil wants you to believe. There are some people in the Bible. Mary Magdalene, Jesus cast out 7 demons in her. She was possessed by 7 demons. And she, after Jesus delivered her, she was one of the women. It was Mary and Martha. They traveled with Jesus during his 3-year earthly ministry. And they were in the helping ministry. They provided Jesus, with all the help that he needed in order to carry on his earthly ministry. They were his helpmates, and Mary, she was the first one to see Jesus after he rose from the grave. After Jesus rose on the 3rd day after he was crucified. Mary was the one who saw Jesus, and Jesus told her, go tell my disciples that I am here and I am coming to talk to them. Mary was the one. Mary was one of the first evangelists after Jesus rose again to go out and tell the world that Jesus rose again on the 3rd day. So she was possessed by 7 demons that Jesus cast out of her. So if Mary can be delivered, anybody can be delivered and used by God. The Apostle Paul wrote, I think, 13 books in the Bible, in the New Testament. Before that, Paul was called Saul, and he was from Tarsus, and he was a member of the Sanhedrin. And he used to persecute and kill Jews, Christians, followers of Jesus. He used to persecute and kill people who believed in Jesus and who followed Jesus. He was there when they stoned one of the first prophets, Stephen. Stephen was a prophet of Jesus. And when, he got killed, just like a lot of the prophets back then and a lot of the disciples, Stephen was the first one to be martyred, in the Christian faith. And Paul was there when they stoned Stephen. So Paul was one of the biggest persecutors of Christians before he was converted on the road to Damascus, and he was delivered, and he was used by God, and he became one of God's strongest apostles or disciples. Paul wrote 13 books of the New Testament, and he was martyred for his ministry and for his faith. So he was still saved. So if God can save Paul and Mary, you think he can't save you? The only thing we can do is just keep telling everybody and just sounding the alarm and warning people that the time is drawing near, and people just they just keep putting it off and being distracted with all these other things. And the only thing that we can do is we're trying to snatch people out the fire and get as many people saved, and to keep from perishing as we can, as many people as we can. So, like I told y'all, even with these rich people, they believe. And that's why I bet y'all didn't know that so many of these billionaires are buying bunkers. They're investing millions and millions of dollars on building these bunkers, preparing for when Jesus comes back, preparing for nuclear war or the apocalypse or whatever you want to call it. They know Jesus is coming back. And they're going to try to build these bunkers and run and hide, from God's wrath. But they know he's coming back. So they're building all these doomsday bunkers and luxury bunkers, underground and on these islands and things like that. trying to go to Mars, building these spacecrafts. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Richard Branson and all these billionaires are trying to figure out a way that they can leave the Earth and go to Mars so they want to be able to escape, to run and flee and hide when Jesus comes back. Also, they believe the prophecies in the Bible that says that we're going to experience, you know, global wars and rumors of wars. They believe these prophecies in the Bible. That's why they're preparing for it. But there's not a bunker. There's not a bunker they can build or buy that's going to be able to protect them from the wrath of God. I don't care what they do, how much money they got, how smart they think they are. It's not going to happen. So there's a bunker that they just had in the news, and I posted a video of it. It's called Irie, and it's the name of this luxury bunker. It's one of the first luxury bunker locations, and it's expected to open in summer of 2026. And it will feature AI-powered medical suites, gourmet dining, swimming pools, and wellness programs. It's going to open in the summer of 2026. An extraordinary offshoot of SAFE. SAFE is a company, it's a Virginia-based protective design specialist, and it's going to unveil Irie in the summer of 2026. This underground doomsday bunker complex will act as a fortified sanctuary, setting the stage for a revolutionary new global network. This is where the rich are going to go and try to run and hide. They're going to try to run and hide from nuclear war, from God's wrath, when Jesus comes back for Armageddon. They're trying to run. They're trying to run and hide from the apocalypse or whatever you want to call it. It's because they believe and they know that Jesus is coming back and that this is the end time. So for years, this company, SAFE, which is short for Strategically Armored and Fortified Environments, has delivered outrageous innovations to private homes, including flaming lakes, biometrically activated shotgun walls, water cannons, and even a Formula One track. So this new Irie project will offer a network of luxurious doomsday residential bunkers in 50 U.S. cities with a planned 1,000 affiliate locations worldwide. So they're building these bunkers, these doomsday bunkers for rich people. They're not for you, you can't afford it. We can't afford it. They build them for the rich people. So a key component of Ivory is its global network of subterranean sanctuaries, nestled underneath its wellness centers in the hearts of cities. The first location will open in Virginia near Washington, D.C. Of course, yeah, they're going to build bunkers for the politicians and all the rich in Washington, D.C., of course. And it will come at a cost of $300 million to construct. So they're building a $300 million luxury doomsday bunker complex outside of Washington, D.C., in Virginia. And it's going to open in the summer of 2026. I think it's going to be like a $20 million fee or something like that to join, to be a part of the community. And it just gives you a description. It says Irie's underground residential apartment built surrounded by fortified rock. And it says we created Irie to help vulnerable clients when they leave their fortified homes or yachts. So they're letting you know it's for rich people. Irie's impenetrable, and you can't penetrate it. Residences include SCIF compliant, which is sensitive compartmented information facilities, meaning it's highly secured. Environments for ultimate privacy and security. So there's probably a lot of facial recognition, biometrically accessed and activated high tech, privacy and security that you just cannot be able to walk in there. Each facility, it probably has security guards and stuff too, armed security guards and stuff. You're not going to be able to go near these bunkers if you don't belong there. Each facility features AI-powered medical suites, gourmet dining, and wellness programs, which will blend protection and luxury. So this is a fortified bunker community for rich people. So the director of medical preparedness for SAFE, I guess she's the director of this company, Naomi Corby, emphasizes that the wealthy are becoming more interested in wellness and longevity offerings as part of their fortified residences. Irie will utilize advanced AI integrated medical care, connecting members to specialists around the clock. So this is a high-tech, rich person's doomsday bunker community. It's for members only. Irie, named after a resting place for birds of prey, is a membership-based club with innovative wellness and longevity offerings. It is part of a global network of highly secure bunkers that clients can buy into, where residences can cost up to $20 million each. Members will also have the ability to customize their bunkers. Now, some of these ultra rich people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and them, like I said, they're trying to go to Mars. They're not trying to. They probably got bunkers here too, but they're trying to leave the planet. They're trying to run up to outer space. When they think Jesus is gonna come or flee nuclear war or whatever, but it's not gonna happen. So anyway, everything but the members club and its rooftop penthouse is underground for security purposes. This is everything but the members club and its rooftop penthouse is underground for security purposes. Interactive walls, ceilings, and special lighting effects make everything appear above ground, perched high above the city. But they are very far underground. Mm. So it has a medical facility. Mm-mm-mm. It says the whole reason IRE came to be is that after building multi-million-dollar sanctuaries for our clients on their estates and super yachts, they still travel away from their protected homes to locations with a lower level of protection. When something terrible happens, they can use one of the bunkers and facilities in the city they find themselves in. So if they have a membership there, and these bunkers have different locations throughout the world, then they can just go seek shelter and protection in one of the bunker locations. So, IRE is like a chain of like a hotel chain of under or an Airbnb network of luxury doomsday bunkers deep underground that they can hide wherever they are in the world. So, but they have to pay millions and millions of dollars to become a member of this community or this club. So IRE is a multifaceted club where members can conduct business in complete privacy because of its SCIF, air gap, and hardwired environments. The Sentinel system protects its members' privacy, security, and freedom underground. Must be nice. They have a medical suite with robotic imaging. It says IRE's design includes subterranean spaces that feature interactive wall ceilings and lighting that simulate panoramic views, creating the illusion of being perched atop a cliff. Spaces range from individual 2,000 square foot suites, which is pretty big, to enormous 20,000 plus square foot multi-level underground penthouses. That's bigger than a lot of people's houses. So they're building pretty much underground cities, underground bunker cities for the rich. According to SAFE, these residences include multi-layer biometric authentication and impenetrable tactical man traps, going beyond security for even world leaders. So this is so highly guarded and fortified that you can't break in there. IRE ensures members can travel confidently, knowing they're protected no matter where they are. SAFER founder Al Corby, with Director of Medical Preparedness Naomi Corby, which is probably his wife or his daughter, um, they say safe systems are designed to give the owner control, not their staff. For clients with larger households, like one with 150 rotating staff members, safe systems track assets and detect problems to ensure nothing is ever misplaced or compromised. There's one spectacular rooftop penthouse suite above ground for exclusivity purposes. All apartments and suites are underground for high-level security. The number of underground floors will vary depending on geographical limitations. Each location will have a minimum of 2 stories, so everybody's going to have 2 stories, with most locations planned for over 20 stories. What? Below grade, with the potential for over 200 apartments. Wow. Aries rooftop penthouse, marketed as the pinnacle of exclusivity, resilience, and luxury, combines opulence with fortress-level protection, fortified against civil unrest and other threats. It features blast-resistant walls, ballistic glass, and advanced defenses. In worst-case scenarios, occupants are transported via hardened elevators to underground bunkers. Underground swimming pool with digital walls creating illusions of city views. SAFE's futuristic technology allows the underground swimming pool and other amenities to appear completely realistic with expansive views. The pool will feel as if it's perched high in the air when in reality, it could be 20 plus stories underground in a full-on nuclear-proof shelter 200 feet below the surface. So this is going to be underground bunkers that make you think that you're still above ground and out in the air above ground. Creates an illusion that you're still above ground when you're really deep, far underground. These medical suites, these functional intensive care units called MediShield provide life-saving critical care for clients, ensuring immediate and advanced medical responses to emergencies. Equipped with state-of-the-art AI technology, they support continuous monitoring and rapid stabilization to assist where external medical assistance is unavailable. So are they going to hire doctors? Okay, according to SAFE, the company's team of they're going to have highly specialized medical professionals who deliver the same standards of the White House medical unit straight to you. So they're going to have White House level presidential health care and medical professionals on staff at these luxury bunkers. The cutting edge robotic services provide top tier medical care and emergency response, regardless of location. So, are they going to have medical, pharmaceutical facilities to create medications? They're going to have hyperbaric chambers, underground hyperbaric chambers, and ice plunge safe. Among the many amenities is an underground hyperbaric chamber that will provide health benefits by delivering concentrated oxygen to counteract limited air quality and promote optimal cellular features. So you'll even be able to use your cell phones down there. This could be beneficial to heal wounds, combat infection, and mitigate the effects of stress and low oxygen levels. Oh, it's an optical cellular function, meaning it's going to, okay, cellular function within your body, I guess. But you still will probably be able to use your cell phones down there too. But this could be beneficial to heal wounds, combat infection, and mitigate the effects of stress and low oxygen levels. So you're going to have top-notch healthcare that's going to be out of this world. An ice plunge room, an underground ice plunge room will also be offered to assist with recovery and resilience in confined conditions. The cold exposure can enhance immune function and promote faster muscle repair while improving tolerance to extreme conditions. So you just plunge yourself in ice. The ice plunge will help reduce stress levels and sharpen mental clarity, providing physical and psychological benefits for life underground. They're going to have an IV therapy room with robotic nurses, AI nurses. The IV therapy room delivers nutrients, hydration, and medications to support physical and mental performance under stress. The highly curated and customized therapy programs will assist in immune function and combat fatigue while helping recovery from illness or injury. You can even give yourself IV drips to replenish your nutrients and your fluids and stuff like that. That's something. The wellness facility also includes a massage room that offers AI robotic treatments for recovery by reducing muscle tensions and improving circulation. So they're going to have AI robotic massage therapists. AI is going to be giving massages in these underground bunkers. Living underground for extended periods of time requires mental clarity, and these wellness amenities will help alleviate anxiety so that residents can stay physically and mentally strong. Underground massage treatment rooms with AI-powered technicians. We already talked about that. SAFE's expertise extends beyond IRE, preparing for scenarios that seem unthinkable. Imagine a massive solar flare annihilating the global grid, plunging the world into chaos, warns Corbett. Within hours, supply chains collapse, society unravels, and civil unrest erupts. This isn't fiction, it's a likely reality. I told y'all, the rich people know this. They see it coming, they believe it. They also know Jesus is coming. So she says, we are creating sanctuaries and doomsday bunkers to prepare for the unthinkable. This is what the founder, Al Corby, adds. Every defense is designed to protect your family. The future may be uncertain, but your safety will never be in these protected bunkers. So they think so. But in reality, this is what I got to say about this. Those of us who believe and belong to Jesus Christ know that there is no bunker that they can buy or build to escape God's wrath. Whether it's during the tribulation, Armageddon, the final Gog and Magog war at the end of the world, they're not going to be able to hide from God. And the Bible prophesied that they will run and hide themselves into the hills, the mountains, and the dens on the day of the Lord. They will run to escape judgment. But they can run, but they can't hide. These prophecies are found in several places in the Bible, particularly in Isaiah, Revelations, and Luke, where it describes people hiding in caves and or running into the mountains and running into the hills or underground during the last days out of fear of God's wrath and judgment. So Isaiah chapter 2, verse 29, Isaiah chapter 2, verses 19 through 21, it says, and they shall go into the holes of the rocks, and into the caves of the earth, for fear of the Lord, and for the glory of his majesty, when he arises to shake terribly the earth, meaning there's going to be a grand shaking of the earth, massive earthquakes, volcano eruptions, thunders, you name it, lightning, you name it. When the Lord comes on the day of the Lord, it's going to be a shaking of the earth, the entire earth. In that day, a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made, each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats. That means that money, that silver, that ain't going to do them no good. To go into the clefts of the rocks. It says they'll leave all their stuff to go and hide, and run and hide, and to go into the clefts of the rocks, and into the tops of the ragged rocks, for the field of the Lord, and for the glory of his majesty, when he arises to shake terribly the earth. God is going to shake the ground when he's going to shake the earth when he comes back. Jesus is going to shake the earth. The Bible says everybody's going to see Jesus when he comes back. Revelations chapter 6, verses 15 through 17, it says, "And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb." That's Jesus, and they know he coming back. "And for the great day of his wrath has come. And who shall be able to stand? Nobody, but only those who follow him and worship him and accept Jesus as our Lord and Savior will be able to stand in this hour. We're not going to suffer the wrath. We're going to be taken up before the 7-year tribulation. The church is going to be taken up and away from here and go to the seventh. We're going to go to the third level of heaven where God is. And we will be attending the wedding supper of the Lamb while this tribulation is going on down here. And then we're going to return back to the earth with Jesus to fight at Armageddon. And then once the Antichrist and the false prophet and Satan are defeated at Armageddon, then Jesus will establish his 1,000-year millennial kingdom. And then we'll reign with Jesus and be with Jesus during that time. But before then, the world is going to suffer this 7-year tribulation period. And this is why I'm saying you want to get saved before it happens. But during this tribulation, when this is all happening, these scriptures are telling you that these people will try to run and hide. Now, the final one, it says Luke chapter 23, verse 30. It says, "Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and onto the hills, cover us." These verses depict a time of great fear and divine judgment, but people will try to hide in caves and underground places to escape God's wrath at the end times, particularly during the 7-year tribulation right before Christ's second coming. Now, see, the second coming, there's a difference between the rapture and the second coming. When Jesus comes for the rapture, he's going to come in the clouds in the sky. He's not going to touch down on the ground on earth. He's going to come in the clouds, and he's going to meet his church in the air, in the clouds. That's like it says in Thessalonians, that we'll be caught up in the air and taken to heaven and attend the supper of the Lamb in heaven. During that time, everybody that's left behind here, down here on earth, will suffer through the 7-year tribulation period. And then Jesus is going to come back to the earth. At the end of the 7-year tribulation period, he's going to fight at Armageddon, where he's going to defeat the Antichrist and the false prophet and throw them into the lake of fire. And then Satan is going to be bound into the abyss for 1,000 years, while Jesus is serving on earth in his 1,000-year millennial kingdom. Satan and his demons are going to be bound into the abyss for 1,000 years. And then he's going to be let back up into the earth one last time. And then he's going to be defeated again at the final war of Gog and Magog. And I talk about that in my video on YouTube. About the end times explained in the end time explained series. I did a 7-part video series explaining all of these things, and you can go to my YouTube channel and you can watch those. You don't have to sit and watch them all at once because they're very long, but I do explain that. So with that said, I'm gonna sign off on this because this video is extremely long. But I post this on my YouTube, and you can watch this video on my YouTube channel, because this is the YouTube channel includes the news clips of these stories that I just talked about. So you can go and watch it over there, but I just post only the video of me discussing the news clips on TikTok because I can't upload and post the actual news stories like I can on YouTube. So with that said, y'all, have a blessed weekend. Please stay safe out there, and hopefully I will, God willing, God granted, Lord willing, I will do another video. If not tomorrow, then Sunday or Monday. Well, today, this is Saturday, so maybe tomorrow or Monday I'll do another video. So, alrighty, be blessed and take care. Peace. This was a long video. I need to get something to drink. Oof, I look terrible too, but I don't care. It's late. I'm tired. I'm about to go to sleep. All right, y'all. Peace.
Just outside the nation's capital on the Virginia side, a new project is taking shape. It's called AIRI, and it's a $300 million members-only doomsday bunker that blends luxury with survival. At first glance, AIRI may look like a high-end resort, but beneath the surface lies one of the most advanced survival structures. The AIRI project is designed to withstand everything from natural disasters to nuclear threats, and Virginia won't be its only home. The company behind AIRI, SAFE, plans to offer presidential bunkers in 50 U.S. states. Now, you may be wondering why the need for such an extreme measure. SAFE's founder and president Al Corby explains it simply. Many of their clients build multi-million-dollar fortified homes, but lack that same level of safety and security while traveling. And the idea of elite bunkers is gaining popularity. Multiple high-profile figures have made headlines for their investments in doomsday shelters.
Man, you see this Mark Zuckerberg building this $270 million bunker?
And Zuckerberg isn't alone. According to CNN, Bill Gates has bunkers in many of his homes. Shaquille O'Neal has reportedly invested in a doomsday bunker or safe room as well. As for Aerie, their membership-based club offers more than just safety. Each space can range anywhere from 2,000 to 20,000 square feet, spanning multi-level underground residences that can cost up to $20 million each. Their apartments can include up to 200 rooms, with each residence including multi-layered biometric authentication for entry. But it's not just about space and security. Aerie's design also prioritizes health and wellness in crisis situations. If a medical emergency occurs and external care isn't available, residents can rely on AI-powered medical suites. Features include a hyperbaric chamber for concentrated oxygen in times of low air quality, an ice plunge room to improve circulation and mental health, and an IV therapy room to provide crucial nutrients. And if that isn't enough, Aerie says their members can fully customize their bunker, giving them a chance to prepare for what they call the unthinkable. With Straight Area News, I'm Kennedy Felton. Download our app or visit san.com for more.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Eliza Petrie. New today, the U.S. Marshals have captured a suspect involved in a crash that tragically killed 2 people in Urbana on Sunday. Fox Illinois' Brianna Moreland is live with information on the suspect. Brianna?
Right here at this intersection behind me, Urbana police say a car with 5 people was stopped at the light when another car speeding down the street hit it. All were rushed to the hospital, but sadly, 2 did not survive. Urbana police say the suspect fled the scene on foot. This morning, just before 9:30, the U.S. Marshals tracked down 27-year-old Juan Saenz Suarez in Milford, Texas, about an hour south of Dallas. Authorities says Saenz Suarez was riding an El Expreso bus headed to Matamoros, Mexico, when he was captured. An arrest warrant was issued on Monday for Saenz Suarez after Urbana police determined he was the owner and driver of the red Mitsubishi Outlander that caused the fatal crash. The victims were identified as 21-year-old Chloe Posen and 20-year-old Catherine Abraham. We reached out to the Urbana Police Department and law enforcement agencies in Texas for more information on whether the suspect will be extradited back to Urbana. We'll keep you updated as we learn more information. Live in Urbana, working for you, I'm Brianna Moreland.
Thanks, Brianna. Urbana police tell us the U.S. Marshals used advanced technology to track Suarez. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to watch more videos from Fox Illinois.
I want to give you an update to a story we brought you earlier in the week here. I want to put this tweet up. Take a look at this from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Vermont. Well, they are saying that a woman has been charged with discharging a firearm during an assault of a U.S. Border Patrol agent. So I want to read from the statement just put out by the U.S. Attorney's Office there in Vermont. Let's take a look at some of this video from the scene of this. And I'm reading now. They say this. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Vermont stated that Teresa Youngblood, 21, and who is believed to be from Washington State, has been charged by criminal complaint with 1 count of using a deadly weapon while assaulting a U.S. Border Patrol agent and 1 count of using and discharging a firearm during and in relation to that assault. Her initial court appearance has not yet been scheduled. Now, according to the charging affidavit, during the afternoon of January 20th, Monday, a U.S. Border Patrol agent initiated a traffic stop of a Toyota Prius on I-91 in Coventry, Vermont. The car was occupied by Youngblood and a man who was a citizen of Germany and whose immigration status was in question. Youngblood and her companion had come to the attention of law enforcement a few days earlier when a hotel employee in Lyndonville, Vermont, expressed concerns about them being dressed in tactical clothing and protective gear while also being armed. Law enforcement also observed the couple in the Prius earlier that Monday at a Walmart parking lot in Newport, Vermont. At that time, the German man was seen wrapping unidentifiable objects with aluminum foil while seated in the vehicle here. Fox News Digital obtained some of these images of the Prius in question. Now, they say, according to the affidavit, during the January 20th vehicle stop, both Youngblood and her companion were armed. During the stop, she fired her handgun without warning toward at least one of the Border Patrol agents while outside the vehicle. Her German companion also tried to draw a firearm, and at least one Border Patrol agent fired his service weapon. The exchange of gunfire resulted in Border Patrol agent David Mayland sustaining fatal injuries. Youngblood and her companion were also shot. The German man was pronounced dead at the scene, and she was taken to the hospital for medical care. They say the investigation into this incident is ongoing. It's being led by the FBI with substantial assistance from the Vermont State Police and ATF in connection with Homeland Security investigations, HSI, U.S. Border Patrol, the Newport Police Department, and Orleans County, Vermont Sheriff's Department as well. So wanted to give you an update on this. I know online a lot of people were talking about this particular case. And if there are any more updates, we'll make sure to follow it. In the meantime here, like I said, I'm Andrew Kraft. We want to get into more of these top headlines.
Very much impacted, Kimberly, and that's why you see me in a mask. Some of the people out here at this park are wearing masks. Not everybody is, though. A lot of people came here to take a look, and let me show you what they are looking at. They want to see just how big this fire is that is going on about 28 hours at this point. A plume of smoke, as you can see, but then you also got a few hot spots still alive. And there's some flames there on the upper ridge, a little bit of flames on the lower ridge. As I'm just looking at this mountain, I'm seeing about 3 or 4 locations of flames just from our vantage point. ABC 10 News reporter Madison Weil has been watching the firefight all day. She is near the water, near the lake. She's joining us now with a look at how things are looking from that angle. Madison, what do you know?
Nonstop since this fire started yesterday. We've been watching helicopters coming in here to Otay Lake, dropping down, hovering just feet above the water. I think we have a couple coming in right now. It's been so impressive to watch them relentlessly fighting this fire from both the sky and the air. And I can tell you that the difference yesterday today has been striking. Right now we can see that the fire is burned all the way up to the water line here at the lake. And this fire yesterday was at 300 acres. Today it's burned more than 5,300. But thanks to these impressive water drops and the winds calming down, crews have been making progress. But it hasn't been without a lot of challenges. As we've been driving through this mountainous area, we've seen crews working really hard, hiking up steep terrain. All of these hills are covered in dry, thorny brush they have to cut through. We just spoke with a retired fire captain with decades of experience in this area. He explained to us that a lot of this brush out here is oily, so when it burns, that oil acts as an accelerant. On top of that, he says there are all kinds of other things that make these mountains such a tough place to fight a fire.
The thing that a lot of people don't realize is that these are wild conditions out here. So there's rattlesnakes out there, there's coyotes out there, there's all kinds of different animals and bugs and things that you're going to run into, and there's poison oak out there. And I've seen crews come back where if people are allergic to it, it can get into their lungs, it gets all over their skin, and they have some really bad reactions to it. So it's not just getting through the brush, it's all the things that are involved.
Some good news tonight. We've seen crews from all over California out here working together collaboratively to keep this fire under control. As of right now, the winds are also pushing this fire away from homes. We'll keep you updated, but for now, live from Otay Lake, Madison Weil, ABC 10 News.
Well, tonight the community continues to mourn a man shot and killed in Coquette in North Hills on Friday.
Yeah, CBS 17's Mary Smith shares the growing memorial for Jonathan Schaefer.
In the middle of a bustling shopping and dining area, Coquette remained quiet and closed Monday. Raleigh police say George Collum Jr. walked into the restaurant and killed Jonathan Schaefer before turning the gun on himself. Police confirm Colum died Sunday from his injuries. Social media accounts indicate Colum was a chef at Coquette. Jonathan Schaefer listed as a manager for Urban Food Group, the company that owns Coquette. A third man, Jonathan Aguilar Vega, was also injured and later released from the hospital. CBS 17 contacted Urban Food Group, and we have not heard back. It's social media displaying a post that says in part, "We have been overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support from our Raleigh community and are grateful for it. We are working now to care for our staff and will be providing further updates on our website and social media channels soon." A note also sits on the restaurant's door, thanking people for their support during this difficult time. Below the door, flowers. And just feet away, handwritten tributes taped to the glass. Some reading, "We miss you," and "We love you, Jonathan, rest in peace." And we have reached out to Schaefer's family today to learn more about who he was, but we have not heard back. Reporting in North Hills, Mary Smith, CBS 17 News.
Tonight, new details about what happened inside the Coquette restaurant before Friday's deadly shooting. Raleigh police say the restaurant's head chef, George Colum, fatally shot server Jonathan Schaefer. Then he turned the gun on himself. Only on WRAL, Carly Haynes spoke with a Coquette employee who was friends with Schaefer. Carly, she saw this happen right in front of her.
And these details are just really difficult to hear. Tomorrow marks 1 week since that deadly shooting. Chu Reno had been inside the restaurant. Today she was with us, speaking with us only to make sure Jonathan Schaefer is remembered. It makes Chu Reno smile when she remembers spending time with Jonathan Schaefer.
Especially if you're having like a bad day, Jonathan made it good.
Her life changed when Schaefer's ended. Only those through these doors know what happened during that shooting. Reno was there. How's this past week been for you and for Coquette?
It affects everybody, but the people that were in the Coquette restaurant when it all happened most definitely were affected on a different level.
She tells us what she remembers while cuts heal on her hands from trying to escape.
There was a boom, and I was like, I thought something like crashed in the kitchen or like there was a crash outside, trying to like wrap my head around it. And then I hear another one, and I look over and I see Jonathan, and his shoulders like shattered, and I was like, oh my God. There's someone shooting. And so
she thought it was a drive-by until she saw head chef George Colum. When did you realize it was George?
George was standing at the bar after everything happened, and his face was like so calm, and I didn't understand at this point that he was the shooter, because like, why is he just standing there after all that happened? And so I saw him, and he looked at me, and he was like, Chu, just go. Just go. And then I ran outside, and then that's when I heard another gunshot, and that is when he killed himself.
That's what shut down North Hills Friday. Reno wants to be clear. She believes Colum targeted Schaefer.
It was a dispute all over a girl. So that's the really sad thing about it, is that it should never get to that point over someone. He didn't try to kill anybody else in the restaurant, because he most definitely could have.
A bullet hole leaves a scar on Coquette's window. Reno will remember this face. An incredible server, she says, and her friend.
I feel like I was there for a reason, to tell the correct story, to be the voice that he couldn't be that day.
And tonight, Coquette remains dark. It has been a somber time for employees as they try to process this. Reno hopes Schaefer's family can heal as best they can. Carly Haynes, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
A man was arrested today in connection to a shooting at a Wendy's restaurant. One police started over cold French fries. LMPD says Manja James Wooten turned himself in for the January 6th shooting. According to his arrest citation, he was with 2 other people in that Wendy's drive-thru on Dixie Highway. James Wooten and the other suspects allegedly got into a fight with the worker over cold French fries. Louisville police released these photos from the scene. 3 suspects got out of the drive-thru and then came inside the restaurant where James Wooten allegedly fired at the Wendy's worker. She was hit and taken to the hospital where she is expected to survive. James Wooten is right now being held on a bond of $50,000.
We're joined now by DEI labor attorney Jason Schwartz. Mr. Schwartz, thanks so much for joining us. First, just want to ask your initial reaction to the scope of the executive order and the employees placed on leave.
Sure. So nice to be with you. The scope of this order is huge. Really dramatic change, not only for government contractors, but for all private sector corporations.
And Trump notably revoked the executive order signed by LBJ back in 1965, which prohibited discriminatory practices in employment decisions for federal contractors. What sort of immediate impact could we start to see?
So the president, as you said, revoked the 1965 executive order from President Johnson and has flipped the requirements so that government contractors now have to agree not to engage in any sort of DEI program that has a preference based on race or gender. So not only do they get rid of their affirmative action programs, but they have to agree not to engage in certain DEI practices. That's a complete reversal. The OFCCP is now ordered to immediately cease its enforcement efforts under the 1965 Civil Rights Program, and instead, contractors agree, again, that they cannot engage in any kind of preferential DEI programs. And the order suggests that that will be enforced not just by the federal government, but that private citizens are going to be deputized to bring what are called False Claims Act actions in order to enforce that government contractor requirement.
Now, the White House said that the executive order demands departments and agencies take strong action to end DEI policies in the private sector as well, and that the Attorney General should also encourage the end of DEI in the private sector. What could those actions look like?
So, Lindsay, the most dramatic thing about that is the president literally asked the heads of every federal agency to provide a list of 9 targets against whom they will initiate investigations and potential litigation to challenge private sector diversity programs that they believe are unlawful. So each agency is going to be on the hunt for, and it's the mission is find the biggest whales you can. The executive order says look for large publicly traded corporations, large employers, large foundations, and send these lists to the White House so that the agencies can initiate investigations and litigation. I think that's going to be a substantial enforcement effort in the private sector, challenging lots of DEI programs at many, many companies.
Leading up to Trump's second term, we saw a number of large corporations begin to roll back their DEI policies. Do you think that more companies will continue to follow suit?
Very much so. No one wants to be on this list of 9 companies. So I think part of the intended effect of this order is not only to find big companies to make an example of, but to scare everybody else into rolling back their programs.
Okay. All right. Well, we thank you so much, Mr. Schwartz. Really appreciate your insight. And this just in, sources tell ABC that employees across the federal government today received memos asking them to report any possible DEI programs.
Late today, the U.S. State Department suspended all foreign assistance around the world for at least 3 months. It affects tens of billions of dollars for programs that extend from military assistance to Ukraine to supporting police in Mexico who are supposed to stop fentanyl from coming into the U.S. Nick Schifrin is following this all and joins us now. So, Nick, what does this direction actually do?
Jeff, the direction is contained in a memo that hasn't been made public. The State Department hasn't even acknowledged it publicly, but PBS NewsHour obtained the memo. And it says the U.S. government, quote, shall not provide foreign assistance funded by or through the Department and USAID without the Secretary of State's authorization. And, quote, for existing foreign assistance awards, contracting officers and grant officers shall immediately stop issue stop work orders. It says within 30 days, the department will develop review standards. Within 85 days, it'll complete a comprehensive review. And within 180 days, all U.S. foreign assistance will be aligned with President Trump's vision. Bottom line, Jeff, every dollar being spent in terms of U.S. foreign assistance around the world is now being paused. There are a few exceptions: foreign military financing for Israel and Egypt, and emergency food assistance around the world.
So what programs could this suspension affect?
We're talking about everything, including security assistance around the world. So $40 billion is generally the total that's cited in terms of total foreign assistance. About half of that is military assistance. So this affects security assistance, or some of the security assistance certainly, to Ukraine, to Taiwan, to Jordan. These are key U.S. allies and partners around the world. And it's not just weapons, it's things like training. But on top of military assistance, this is what the U.S. government calls security assistance, so that's police. There's some $2 billion for policing around the world. And so as you identified at the top, some of this is for Mexican police, who are supposed to go after the cartels that have just been labeled foreign terrorist organizations, who are supposed to interdict fentanyl that has affected so many communities in the United States. So this really goes so far across the world. West Africa gets counterterrorism funding through this program. So there are big questions about how long this will last, how the Trump team will resume it. They say that they simply don't have enough visibility into all of these programs. They need to pause it in order to better understand it and align it with their vision.
Nick Schifrin with this late breaking news. Our thanks to you as always.
Thank you.
This atrocity was planned out here, inside the family home on a quiet cul-de-sac in a village 4 miles from Southport. The police discovered a stash of weapons, a machete, a set of arrows. From here, he'd researched conflicts all over the world, beheadings, terrorism, and genocide. Under his bed was this Tupperware container. Tests later showed it contained the deadly toxin ricin. There's no evidence that he used it, but he'd ordered the ingredients online and made it himself.
All of the evidence that we found in relation to him shows that he was obsessed with violence. The planning shows that he was intent that day on going out to commit mass murder. What we don't know, because we've never found it, is that the ideology, that's just not there. It was more a suggestion that he was probably more socially isolated than being radicalised by anybody.
What has been the input from his immediate family into your investigation?
So we still have a live investigation ongoing, so I'm unable to answer any questions in relation to the parents at this stage.
A lot of people watching this will wonder what that means.
We have a live investigation ongoing, and that is something that we are still looking into.
This footage shows Rudy Cabana a week before the attack. He's sitting inside this taxi. The man on the street is his father. He was persuading his son not to go back to his old high school. Eventually, Rudy Cabana complies and leaves the taxi. The court was told it was likely to be an attempt to carry out a similar attack. The red flags stretch back to 2019 and a catalogue of incidents over the years. Among them, he'd been caught looking up school massacres while in class. During a call to Childline, he asked, "What do I do if I want to kill somebody?" And when the police stopped him on another occasion, he had a knife. He told the officers he wanted to stab someone. A long list of worrying behaviour meant he was on the radar of multiple authorities, including the police, mental health and children's services. He'd also been referred several times to Prevent, the counter-terrorism programme, but his case was not escalated.
It is right that questions are asked about what more needs to be done across the whole Prevent system and beyond. Many threads have to come together if we are to stop children and vulnerable people being led towards violence and extremism, including better and earlier identification of those at risk and reducing the ready access to weapons and horrific toxic online material.
There will be a full inquiry, But we already know this teenager could have been stopped, and the investigation into him and his family is not yet over. Tom Parmenter, Sky News.
That's it, yeah, it's down there. Yeah. It's down there, it's the spray shop. We cash it card, mate. Number 34A, yeah. We cash your card, mate. We cash your card, mate.
On counts 1 to 3 murder, I sentence him to custody for life with a minimum term which he must serve in custody of 52 years, less the time he's served already. He's been in custody for 175 days on remand, which will be credited. Therefore, the minimum term is 51 years and 190 days. On counts 4 to 11, I sentence him concurrently to custody for life with a minimum term of 18 years, less 175 days served, on each count concurrently with each other. Allowing for his time served on remand, the minimum term on those counts is 17 years and 190 days. On counts 12 and 13, I sentence him concurrently to custody for life with a minimum term of 16 years, less his time served on remand, on each count concurrently with each other, leading to a minimum term on those counts of 15 years and 190 days. On counts 14 and 16, I sentence him to 18 months custody concurrently with each other and all other offences. He will pay the appropriate amount he will pay the appropriate amount under 18 statutory charge, which will be entered on the court record. Accordingly, in total, I sentence Rudy Cabana to 13 sentences of custody for life and a minimum term to be served in custody of 51 days and 190 days. It is highly likely that he will never be released.
Donald Trump's mass deportations are underway. These images shared by the White House press secretary show migrants lined up and handcuffed being carted onto a military plane. Dozens of migrants filing off a flight in a Mexican border town on Friday. Trump's administration says it arrested more than 500 people that it referred to as, quote, illegal immigrant criminals. As the crackdown unfolds, a warning from one of the deported men.
There's a lot of migratory authorities and everyone is getting caught. I don't recommend crossing because there's a lot of authorities.
The newly ordered blitz taking place across the country. Agents from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, raided this New Jersey seafood store in a move that the mayor called a violation of people's rights.
ICE agents raided a business in our city without a warrant. They went in the back of the establishment. We believe that there were 3 people who they say were undocumented that they detained, but they also detained folks that were, in fact, citizens of this country. One person showed their military veteran identification and was still questioned anyway.
The store's owner says the ICE agents did not ask any of the white employees for documentation.
And if we allow people to identify us or put us in categories of criminal or any other thing just by the way we look, then we're going back to a time that was very dangerous in this country, specifically for people that looked like me.
12 ICE agents reportedly entered the retail area, claiming they'd received complaints and asking to see ID. The owner says they were not looking for anyone specific.
ICE walked in like it was their empire's own conquered land. They were heavily armed. There was no prior announcement. They were blocking off entrances and exits. They were scrambling up delivery ramps. They were banging down bathroom doors to make sure no one was hiding inside.
1,500 active duty troops are being sent to the U.S. southern border this week as part of Trump's long-promised crackdown on immigration. The administration says more waves of troops could be sent in the coming weeks. Brandon Shogri, City News.
Our prime minister has already said that there isn't a snowball's chance of it ever happening. But U.S. President Donald Trump is musing once again about Canada becoming the 51st state, this time to a global audience.
We're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. I don't know if it's good for them. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state. And if you're a state, we won't have a deficit. We won't have to tariff you, et cetera, et cetera. But Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years.
Obviously. Trump making those claims during a virtual speech to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Trump has already floated February 1st as a possible start date for 25% tariffs on all Canadian imports, even as talks between the two countries continue in an attempt to avoid a trade war. While Canada and Mexico have both been singled out, Trump expanded his threat on Thursday, warning that all global companies that decide not to make their products in America will eventually face varying levels of tariffs.
The clang of the cash register, an anxiety-inducing reminder of rising costs.
Yeah, it's just a hell of a mess right now.
The cost of living making it harder to get by and leaving little hope for the future.
We talk about possibly leaving Canada because why should we stay here? Just be overtaxed, underserviced, healthcare sucks, education sucks, government is bloated.
A new RBC poll found 59% of British Columbians feel financially paralyzed due to rising costs, 4% higher than the national average. This even as inflation drops to the Bank of Canada's 2% target.
Many Canadians, anecdotally, feel like their income is not going up, but yet costs, even though it's only 2% now, not 8%, they're still going up.
Just under 1/3 of British Columbians say their finances are in a constant state of chaos.
It's really gone downhill in the last 10 years, the quality of life, and I just, honestly, I feel bad for people every day, and I don't like having to feel bad every day.
The survey also shows 54% of British Columbians are spending all of their income on essential bills and expenses, and 57% doubt they'll ever get ahead.
I remember living from paycheck to paycheck, and that's tough. That's really tough, and you're always stressed out, and that's not good.
Of course, with these tariffs coming up from the United States, it's going to make it even that much worse.
Despite the doom and gloom, Bannon says there are ways to manage debt and expenses.
If this was your health that we were talking about, and this was a medical situation, you'd be talking to a medical professional, and we're encouraging people to use the same approach for their financial health.
Saying there's no shame in asking for help. Travis Prasad, Global News.
We will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. We will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
Really? No. I'll also be signing an executive order to begin the process of fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, or maybe getting rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA is not good. I think when you have a problem like this, I think you want to go and, whether it's a Democrat or Republican governor, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA, and then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area, they've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. They want to bring people that aren't as good as the people you already have. And FEMA's turned out to be a disaster. And you could go back a long way. You could go back to Louisiana. You could go back to some of the things that took place in Texas. It turns out to be the state that ends up doing the work. It just complicates it. I think we're going to recommend that FEMA go away. And we pay directly. We pay a percentage to the state. but the state should fix this. If the state did this from the beginning, it would have been a lot better situation. I think you guys agree with that, right? So I just want to say that Asheville, I know it well. It's a great place, and we're going to have it be a great place again. That was the one that was most severely affected. But North Carolina is going to come back bigger, better, stronger than ever before. And you're going to be very thankful. And you've already seen, I know that it really began 4 days ago, but you've already seen more action than you have in the last 3 months. And we're going to get it together. We're informing the Army Corps of Engineers to get going because you have a lot of river breaks and a lot of areas that you're going to need some pretty big work. And they're on their way. They're going to be working much harder than they've been working in the past, and we're going to take care of it. Any questions from?
It was kind of surreal on Inauguration Day, having all these people wearing MAGA hats. They saw me and they saw my uniform. They had recognized who I was, and they thanked me for my service. And it reminded me of January 6, 2021, because on that morning they thanked me for my service too. And then they went into the ellipse and listened to Donald Trump speak. And Trump was told that they were armed and he didn't care. He told them they had to fight. Fight, fight, fight. And then he sent them to the Capitol. And once they went to the Capitol, they didn't thank me anymore. They called me a traitor, telling me to remember my oath. I was beaten, crushed, kicked, punched, surrounded. Someone reached underneath my visor, tried to gouge out my eye.
Many of the officers that were brutally assaulted that day are the same officers who protected Donald Trump on Monday. Think about that for a minute. Just sit with that for a minute. The same people that Donald Trump sent to a mob to attack are the same people that made sure he was safe on Monday.
The Republican members who we protect every day continue to invite the attackers to return to the crime scene and personally give them guided tours of the Capitol. They are welcomed as heroes, but treat the officers as thugs, dishonoring our service of saving their lives.
Last night in the Oval Office, President Trump told reporters that he was working on pardons for 2 unnamed D.C. police officers. Mr. Trump said that he was going to give them a break. The D.C. Police Union today identified the officers as Terrence Sutton and Andrew Zabavsky, who were convicted in the October 2020 death of Karon Hilton Brown. Both men received prison sentences but are free pending appeal. The news came as a shock to Hilton Brown's mother. News 4's Paul Wagner has the story.
Yes, sir. First, we have a list of...
Last night, as he was signing executive orders in the Oval Office, President Trump was asked if he was commuting the sentences for anyone who assaulted police officers on January 6th. Instead of answering the question, Trump said this.
Well, we're looking at 2 police officers, actually, that Washington police officers who went after an illegal, and things happened and they ended up putting them in jail. They got 5-year jail sentences. You know the case. And we're looking at that in order to give them we got to give them a break.
But is there clemency in your actions today for anyone?
Well, it would be a pardon. That would be a pardon.
The D.C. Police Union declined to comment beyond confirming President Trump was referring to Terrence Sutton, who was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 5.5 years in prison, and Andrew Zabavsky, who was convicted of conspiracy and obstruction of justice and given 4 years in prison. In October of 2020, prosecutors say Karon Hilton Brown was riding a motorbike without a helmet as Officer Terrence Sutton pursued him in an unmarked car in the Brightwood Park area of Northwest. The chase went on for 10 blocks before Sutton followed Hilton Brown down an alley at what prosecutors say was unreasonable speed before Hilton Brown left the alley and was hit by a car. Prosecutors say after the collision, Sutton and Zabavsky conspired to cover up what actually happened. Community outrage led to violent clashes with police. Karen Hilton, Karan Hilton Brown's mother, seen here in file video, told News 4 in a phone call today she was stunned by the news and repeatedly said, "There is no way. This can't be happening." She declined an on-camera interview. The attorney for Terrence Sutton declined to comment, but Andrew Zabavsky's attorney sent this statement to News 4, which reads, "Zamponia PC is working tirelessly towards victory for our client, Lieutenant Zabavsky, to overturn the verdict for a prosecution that should never have been brought." It's unclear how the case came to Trump's attention. Zabavsky and Sutton are free pending appeal. In the district, Paul Wagner, News 4.